The following show is for mature audiences only.
Watch the tape, and when you see the tape, you know the tape doesn't lie, and the tape doesn't lie.
Yeah, it is. I really don't understand. Well, I guess I do. I guess everybody's got their own little narratives that they want to create, and and it's difficult too when you're not. I guess you just don't watch enough. I don't know. We talked about this last night. Like, the NFL has changed, and I think that people still have this notion of what a wide receiver one needs to look like. And Dan Orlovsky, I should have gone back and checked to see if he actually did play with Calvin Johnson. The years seem to line up, so I'm almost assuming that he is. But it's like, yeah, you know what? Like, not everybody is going to be Calvin Johnson or Randy Moss or anything like that. It's kind of like the way Vince McMahon always looked at his champions over the years, where they all had to look like Batista or The Rock or Hulk Hogan, or people like that. And then for a couple of years, people like Bryan Danielson were allowed to be WWE champion, who's, he's not even 6 feet tall, but they let him run with the belt, and he was highly successful. Kofi Kingston ran with the belt, not somebody that you would normally, associate with being like one of the megastars of 70s wrestling or 80s wrestling or anything like that. And I think that the NFL is in that process right now where you don't have to be 6'5" and this otherworldly type of,
exactly.
Like, you don't have to be the create a Madden guy. Like, we saw how valuable Cooper Kupp was this season for the Los Angeles Rams. And I think Darnell Mooney could be that type of receiver if the offense is predicated that way. If the targets go his way, he's going to catch the football. Yeah, so of no fault to George himself. But you're never like, I honestly don't like you. And I'm going to be actively rooting against you as a terrible person, as an awful person.
I didn't understand him standing there. Was he wearing a freaking...
When he got picked, that was so fucking awkward.
He wearing like a woman's legging over his face? I didn't know what the hell was going on.
It was like watching the backstage segments from Raw, and they're always watching TV at a weird angle. Like, who's doing that?
Back was bent a certain way. I was like, who is this? Shayne sent it to me. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, it's Pickens. I'm like, thank God. I just watching that, it verified everything for me that I felt like on tape. And then the Georgia, what game was it? Georgia Tech. He's in a fight, selfishly taking over the game. They're winning. And I was like, this guy has some.
We just got.
And I'm telling you right now, I just remember Velus playing against. And me and Chris Zorich, the former Bear, were texting back and forth because Tennessee was in the game Alabama. And I'm like, who the fuck is this number one? He refuses. He's the leader. He was the alpha.
Yeah.
Creating this energy that we can fucking do this. When you find that, and I didn't know that Velus was an older player and his backstory from USC. When I'm watching this, all I'm doing is watching it as a fan, not breaking down tape. And I'm like, when someone jumps off the screen and has that kind of persona, that will to win, that looks at the fucking sideline and says, all day, give it to me. I'm going to fucking watch me. Those guys are the Paytons. Those guys are the Sanders. Those guys are the ones that you find. And listen, 25 years old might have pushed him down. But to hear him talk, Shayne, and him saying, I'm fucking pissed at that 4-3-1 because I know I ran not in a straight line. It could have been better. This kid's not like John Capel fast. This kid is angry fast, and he plays the game of football fast. That's a whole different thing.
I like the approach, and you know what? When you have a need at a position like that, with a draft that was deep at the position, and I think that taking some of the swings on this guy, I think the San Diego State kid could develop into something too. And I think a lot of the guys that they took were project type players. I'm into that. I think that that's what you want to do. I think it shows that they're somewhat comfortable with where they're starting this season, and they're going to have some stuff to work on moving forward. So I thought that it's probably the best approach just to throw all the resources, those second and third, the third day guys. I mean, the Bears have done pretty well with some third day picks over the last number of years. I think the Chiefs, I think everybody does. You know, a lot of times if you ever want to just take some time and go through Wikipedia or whatever and look at some drafts and look at like who hits, you're like, oh, like, because they'll show you like who's still in the league, who are the Pro Bowlers, who are the All Pros, and you're surprised like how many misses there are in the first round, how many guys later in drafts sneak through the cracks. You know, I was talking about Richard Sherman earlier today. Like there was a guy like, how does he just sneak through? I know he was a converted wide receiver.
Yep.
I'm assuming he was a little bit older because I thought that he graduated from Stanford.
He was 25.
I thought he was older. I think he was older too. A guy who played wide receiver and then developed into one of the best safeties of his era, or corners, excuse me.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man.
Keeping it 100.
Chicago's trading up.
100.
Yes! What? Oh here it is! Just recorded.
The tape never lies.
Other people drop off, but we still keep rocking.
You'll never know how good your football team's going to be until you play with maximum effort. Keeping it 100.
Open competition over the North and never give it back.
Smartest man.
My Chicago Bears select Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State.
Guess who's back? The two dudes that kept it real. Dynamic duo that you love, the smartest man and Dr. Phil. Breaking down the film, never a problem, kick it straight. Most shows focus on stats, we focus on the tape. We keeping it 100, never running east to west. We coming with that truth, cause that's what our fans expect. Cut off the freaking anchor, forward to be free. But don't you worry, Shayne's got the dumbest tweets. It ain't no secret, Phil and Shayne got some haters. But now they're all stuck like the Jew and now and later. Debaters, frauds get kicked like Coach Tabor. Cuts had to be made, we added a barber moderator. Up and down, boys got you double checking. Sad sack scrolling like a fool drunk texting. Flexing on the truth cause you know they never change. Real, recognize real, that's what you get with Phil and Shayne. What we do when we're breaking down the Bears. Fuck a play or a captain, all of the unchairs. The tape never lies. The truth, you see, we laugh, we analyze, so there's no babies like Maybelline. Straight to the truth with acumen and facts. We got a sad nerd, but he's not just giving nerd stats. Car crash, big impact like Trick Sat. Every Wednesday night you got the smartest man and Phil back. Now we know you're smiling like a fat kid with fun dip. We're back better than ever and we keeping it 100.
Keeping it 100, baby.
Keep it 100.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man.
Justin Fields gets outside the pocket, puts that ball perfectly where only Mooney can get it. 1
Keeping it 100.
2 feet.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man.
Keeping it 100, baby.
Keeping it 100.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man.
Keeping it 100, baby.
Keep it 100.
Keeping it 100.
Birds never lie. Yeah, exactly.
This This is Claudio the Barber. There's no music, whatever. This is TTNL's Keeping It 100. Listen, we got another great show with the OTAs in full swing. The hype around the Bears is building. So we got a great special show for tonight. We have Shayne and Cars coming on with Q&A. Let's bring them on because I've had already too much to drink. There they are.
We're off to a hot start.
Yeah.
Hot start.
Hi, Michael. My name's Sean.
I pressed play and it didn't fucking play. What are you gonna do? I'm new to it. There you go. See,
it's all good, Claude.
It's been a crazy week for everybody, right?
Yeah, it has been.
It really has been. So
let's bring everybody out.
Everybody.
Like
Claudio, this is just going to go on your year-end review. I want you to know, but you know,
you can't give me a pay cut because I make.
Wait, you didn't get the Angelo special? What? Huh?
You're on the air, baby. You're on. You did it.
Yeah. So before we get too deep in here, just want to address a couple of things. If you're a TTNL Network patron, you know that we do a show on Sundays or Saturdays. You'd see X's with the O's or Draft Mob, and we weren't able to put our show out on Sunday because we had some bad news within the family. You guys see that Phil's not here with us tonight. Unfortunately, Phil's ex-wife, the mother of his two oldest daughters, passed away suddenly. So you guys can imagine the weight that something like that carries. It's tough when you have teenage girls. Just in general, that's tough enough. And when their mother passes away unexpectedly, you can just imagine how you deal with that as a father and as a family. I do want to put this out there, guys. It's, Phil is okay. We're not talking, a whole bunch, just kind of giving him his space. So I hope you guys do too. Please don't bombard him with DMs and say, I know Shayne told me not to reach out, but I'm going to do it anyway. Things like this take time. Phil's doing exactly what he needs to do by focusing on family, focusing on his two beautiful girls that lost their mother. So that's kind of why we've been radio silent a bit, just kind of focusing on that. We preach here that TTNL is family, and we weren't really sure how to address this. And I talked to Phil today, and he wanted to, in true Phil fashion, wanted it addressed, wanted the truth out there, what the situation is. So that's what it is. Like I said, if you pray, you pray. If you don't pray and you believe in positivity, do that. Just keep the O's, and specifically Sonny and Bella in your thoughts at the very least. We're doing that here as a network, and that's what we're going to continue to do. And Phil's going to have all the time in the world to take as much time as he needs to make sure that everything is on the correct path with his daughters and with his family. And the show must go on, as they say. So that's what we're going to do here. Cars stepped in, and we decided to do a show just strictly Bears talk tonight. There's not going to be a lot of extra, I don't want to say bullshit, but we'll call it bullshit just for that.
I'm on there. Still will be a lot of bullshit. So don't worry.
There will.
So yeah, but it is, and we'll throw Mr. Jackal in there is a little bit under the weather, so he's not going to be, putting his fake books out there and fucking up behind the scenes like he normally does. But Jackal, all the best to you, brother. Hope you feel better. So that is that. And like I said, guys, please just be respectful to the family. Phil will be back, and there will be time. Phil, he's not a guy that's going to shy away from the mic, so he's going to address this himself when he gets back. the way that he does. So there'll be a proper time and place. And right now, just be, thinking about the family and just let them have their space, because you guys can imagine if you were in that same position, nothing, football, everything else, isn't a focus. He's thinking about his 2 girls who lost their mother, and that's exactly what any father should be doing in a time like this. So appreciate you guys, hanging with us. I know it's kind of a heavy way to start off a show like we do here, but that's the TTNL way. We want to keep things honest with you guys, open and up front, and that's what we'll do. So, all right, guys, we're heading in. Yeah,
cue the Mark Rebelay drop, and we can get this moving.
Oh my god,
that's better. I feel.
Oh, that's the juice, baby. Yo, I feel the juice in my mouth.
I think we got a new Mark Rebelay sighting, don't we?
Thank you.
And we are
balling.
Bullshit is back in. Yeah,
73, I think is the line, right? But yeah, so we're gonna talk Bears. We're gonna be interactive here tonight. We're gonna take some questions from you guys in the chat, and maybe if you guys play your cards right, we may even invite a person or 2 on. So
everybody get your headphones ready.
Don't send 87 DMs to my DM saying, "Hey, can I come on? Hey, can I come on? Hey, can I come on?" Just we'll see. But so we're heading into the end of May, beginning of June here, and if there is a slow period in the NFL, I don't know if you guys want to, Cars, should we kick these other fuckers off for right now and get into some football talk? Bratcher,
sure, let's do it. Yeah.
Hey, Cherie, get your feeding the ducks ready, Cherie. We're gonna be ready to go here.
The thirst is already starting in the chat, so it's we're right in mid-season form.
Look at Ron G stepping up, doing our new overlay here, Cars. We don't need Phil, right? We can just do this ourselves.
We should have our own show in this season. Yeah.
Maybe call it Cars Keys, get everybody ready, prepared for the games. But yeah, man, we're heading into this slow season in the NFL. And it's funny, I feel weird even saying slow season because
there's no such thing.
You sign a fucking punter and you're like reading up on a punter. Exactly. And you saw the Akeem Hicks, Insta post and then quick delete, so everybody's out there is reading into that. But just what has unfolded so far in terms of what you've seen in the veteran OTAs, and I know you and I and Ryan Cox talked a little bit today. Let's dive right into this Jalen Johnson talk. I think that's going to be important here. You see Bears go out and their first pick at number 39 is Kyler Gordon. I think everybody's excited about Thomas Graham, and Coach Eberflus comes out and is very praiseworthy to Kyler, and he was a little more limited when it came to Jalen Johnson. So what do you think of that?
So my take is that it's kind of like the old school coach thing where you're trying to build up a rookie's confidence, and you're trying to not necessarily tear down, but you're trying to break the habits of the old school guys. I think that's first and foremost. But I do think, second to that, as you and Ryan kind of mentioned in our little chat, right? Like Jalen had some plays where he wasn't touching a guy that was down. It wasn't maximum effort all the time. And I think that's going to be, the hits thing is really going to be that. So I think they're going to drive to try to see as much consistency out of him. And if you really listen, like most of the guys that they talked very well about were new guys other than Justin Fields. Everybody else was kind of more Demure, yes, we'll focus on Jalen, but it really feels like,
not Demure Bird Cars.
That's not Demure Bird, but it. Well played. Dad jokes are already flying. I just feel like you can't rest on your laurels. We can't, as players. We always talk about Eddie Jackson. You can't rest on 2018 anymore, and I think that's what it feels like. That's what they're trying to do. What was your take on it, though?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it, like you said, Cars, and he's more of a press guy in a zone scheme, like you were talking about there, and I think that there is a whole bunch to this. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're moving off of Jalen Johnson, but there's been a little bit of Jalen Johnson feeling like he's a little more important than everybody else on the team. He got fined multiple times last year for being late to meetings. And, I go back and he's still holding that chip on his shoulder that he was, disrespected in the draft. And the fact of the matter is you had 4 shoulder surgeries. Your talent didn't drop you down. You were a top 15 to 20 talent all day long, but your medicals are what pushed you down. I mean, if he had no shoulder surgeries, you're not drafting him. What was it, 50th overall, or right around 52, whatever it was. But no. I think more so than anything, I don't think that they have any plans of moving off of him whatsoever. But I think it's a clear shot across the fucking SS Johnson that, hey, this is a new fucking regime. Nobody was here when you were picked, and you're gonna do shit our way. You're gonna be on time. And if you're not, I don't give a fuck who you are. And I applaud that because, I listened to Adam Hogue today talking about captains and stuff like that. And he's like, I hope that they don't do the weekly captain. And I totally agree with it. And he goes, the only problem is if you do the set in stone captains, then if something happens to that player, then you can't talk about it publicly and pull that. Yes. Guess what? Yeah, you can. And if I was the fucking head coach, I would go right up on the fucking podium and I would say, oh yes, I can pull the fucking captaincy off anybody's fucking jersey, because if you're a captain and you don't represent yourself as a Chicago Bear and as a captain of the Chicago Bears, then I will take that fucking C off your jersey and I'll talk about it publicly. That's called accountability 101. And that's what this entire fucking franchise is like.
And I think that's a big Flus thing, right? Like,
yep.
And I think it's important to circle back. You got to remember when we drafted Jalen running the defensive scheme that we were in, it was because of his man traits, his press, and everything. We've now moved to more of a zone base. And look, there's going to be times where he's going to have to play man, but that means he's got to know his assignments.
Yep.
And too often last season, when a big play, everybody in the defensive backfield was kind of doing one of these pointing at everybody else, and there was zero accountability. We've talked a lot about Eddie, right, and his you don't get paid to just tackle thing.
Anybody can tackle.
Yeah. And we missed all of those things. I'm with you to a degree that I don't think it means that they're going to move him now, but it would not shock me that if he did not perform up to expectations 100%. Some point during the season, that these are guys that get moved. And there's nothing wrong with it. And it's not necessarily a failed draft pick, but this is what happens sometimes when you draft for traits and the team falls apart and you hire a new staff and the traits that they need are completely different. So we'll see. The story isn't written, but all of these guys, the fact that he's already starting to do those shots across the bow is way more accountability than we've ever seen before from, since Nagy was head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And this isn't an indictment on the talent of Jalen Johnson. No. I mean, he's
super talented,
very talented, but you want a corner that's got a fucking edge to him. You want a corner that's got that short mindset that it's going to go pass to pass. And right now, Jalen Johnson has not showed me that he can move on from things. He takes a lot of things. He takes a lot of things personal. And, you saw the little back and forth with him and Leisure, even, and then he was demanding stats. And I mean, Jalen, I know we all know what stats say, but at the end of the fucking day, you cannot sit here and tell me that the Bears had an upper echelon secondary. Come on. It's just a fallacy. Yeah. I mean, it's not true, but hey, whoa, we do have some breaking news here.
Breaking news. The Tape Never Lies Network. Breaking news.
This was posted on Facebook earlier, so yeah, it's great. Bratcher, I'm obviously not a woman. I'm glad that was Facebook worthy, Bratcher, but good job on that, wedging that into the show for whatever reason. But
I'm good with it. I'm good with it right now.
Yeah, I'm glad he figured that out. Fucker's 45 years old and figuring that out, but Bratcher.
45, I don't fucking think so.
No, I may. Poor Brat. How old are you, Bratcher?
I'm 38.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's close. 38 and 45 are essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
Come on.
You're on mute, Sheree.
You're on mute, Sheree.
Speak your knowledge off of mute, please.
It is not the same thing.
I don't think
they're close. They're close.
Well, for a man, no. For a woman, yeah. Like, definitely for a woman, it's not even close to the
You're gonna die. You're gonna die. Alan,
close to the 30.
Someone start to play that Sarah McLachlan song because we have officially lost Alan at this moment.
I almost brought back dumbest tweets of the week for that, but I didn't know if it would pass since I saw it on Facebook. Had to bust his balls a little bit.
Absolutely.
But Cars, I know a couple of people were asking what happened with Akeem Hicks. Akeem Hicks posted a picture of himself sacking Aaron Rodgers on Instagram. Everybody started to melt down, started going crazy, and then as quick as it went up, it was deleted. Are you 100% sold that there's 0% chance that he will be a Chicago Bear? Do you think that it's still potentially in play at some point?
I think it's definitely in play because at this point, there's not a lot of money out there. And so, it's not like they're going to have to go through and overpay him. And look, he was always a good locker room guy. He's always been a leader. He's always been, the most overused football phrase. He's always been a warrior.
Yep.
So I think in the way that he kind of developed late on, it's a good reference point for some of these young kids. So yeah, I think there's a chance. And we'll see what happens because he'd be an interesting guy on the interior of the line.
Oh man, I think I might have mentioned it last week, but Harb Arkush was talking about somebody's like, can he play 3-tech? And he's like, oh no. Akeem Hicks I think he would be a fucking destroyer as a 3-tech.
There's nothing on the defensive line that a healthy Akeem Hicks can't do.
Totally agree. I mean, you don't think that? Can you imagine him lining up with fucking Robert Quinn and Travis Gibson? I mean, or your third. Why am I blanking on the rookie that they just brought in? The fifth
Dominique
round? Robinson. Their plan for him is, the NASCAR package. Get out there on fucking 3rd and long and don't worry about anything but going after the fucking quarterback. And you put Akeem Hicks is a fucking animal when he's healthy. It's just been few and far between that he's been healthy. But I almost look at it. I think there's more to it than just his play. He's the ultimate fucking galvanizer to a team on a team that really needs it, because I don't look at Eddie Jackson as being a leader on this team. I don't look at Roquan Smith as being the ultimate leader on this team. I think Akeem Hicks signs a contract, and I think do you remember when we had Josh Woods on when he was I said, hey, who's the leader? He's like, oh, Danny T. Then I asked him who's the leader on offense. He was like fucking 3 minutes, and he's like,
And that's why Brisker is here, because they look at that leadership quality that they need. And you're absolutely right. Like, that's a player they need. And I think the benefit to him is if we were to re-sign him at this point, he's not going to be playing 80% of the snaps like he has been the last couple of years, right? Like they're going to get him kind of into that Eddie Goldman 50% or less snaps to just preserve him and keep him healthy.
Perfectly fucking fine with that.
And that's the best use for him.
Yep.
And then, you get that leadership. He can mentor Brisker on becoming more of a leader, right? Like he can identify someone else on that defensive line. To, maybe it's a guy like I'm just throwing out names like a Tonga or someone else, right?
Yeah.
Like he can mentor someone to take those roles over.
I saw somebody in the chat, Michael Cook, said that I'm pretty sure that Smith could be a leader. That's exactly where my problem lies, because that's a lot like with Mitch. Could be. To me, very few guys grow into that. So I think you either have it or you don't. I mean, I still want to see more from Roquan. There was a report out there today that things are expected to get hot and heavy in terms of a long-term contract extension. And I mean, who really knows how that's going to go? Roquan represents himself. Those things usually do not end well for the player at the end of the day. I know whatever their 4% doesn't have to go to the agent, but I mean, with the numbers that he's going to be talking about, it's going to be interesting to see where that goes with Roquan. I mean, I understand the youth, but I want to see more out of Roquan.
He can't just be a tackle machine,
Nope.
And it's not that that's not important, but like there's a difference between tackle machine and let's look at Urlacher, right? And what he was.
Yep.
It wasn't just that, is how he impacted game plans, how he forced turnovers, how he was a threat to rush the quarterback. Some of that was definitely not the fault of Roquan and the way he was used. But this is going to be a defense that's really going to feature him as almost the key guy, right? Like he's going to get moved around. He's going to do all of these things. And he might be one of those guys that, to me, Shane, I think like leadership is too much of a burden. Like just focus on everything that you've got to do,
right?
And let somebody else, let Morrow be the one to make the calls. Let Brisker handle what's happened in the defensive backfield. You just focus on the other things that we need you to do. There's no shame in that, but that's how he could go out and earn that $90+ million that everybody thinks he's going to get.
Lance Briggs talked about Roquan and, the positives and negatives. And he's like, we don't know where they're going to put him yet. I think he should probably be the weak side guy, but he talked about him in the middle and where he doesn't really like him in the middle so much in this defense because of the size aspect of it.
Yes.
He was used to playing with Brian Urlacher, who could take away that deep half of the field, just take it away because he was 6'4", 260,
and as fast as Roquan.
Yeah, and he had that length. You look at a guy like Edmonds in Buffalo, who's got that lankier look to him, and he really thinks that he feels like they're going to push Roquan outside, and maybe next year at some point they're going to look at a middle linebacker that's got some more length to him that can cover a little bit more down the field. But it is interesting if you're putting all your chips, Cars, in the middle of the table, or week 1 versus San Francisco, where is Roquan lining up?
I think he's going to be on the weak side. Yeah. I feel like, especially if they're going to give him the money or they're negotiating that deal now, they're going to put him like this year. I think we've talked a lot. This year is about putting guys in their roles and letting them grow into them. And so I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense that the end goal is to be weak side for him to be in the middle for a year and then move him.
Nomad, fuck yeah, this is live, bro. Come on, man.
Oh shit, this isn't the dry run? Fuck, we got to clean all this up in post, Shane.
You didn't tell me this shit was live.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, it's interesting to see, how this is going to go. Man, if Morrow has a ton of skill, I've been watching more and more of him. The thing that's just been holding him back is the injury bug, like you're talking about. And he is a talented cat, man.
Great coverage too.
Big time. Yeah, that's big part of his game. So it's going to be very interesting. And I mean, they signed him fairly early on too. So he was a guy that I think they came out the gate and was like, all right, we want this dude. And the other one that was fairly early was Muhammad. I think they have some. Nobody's talking about him, and I'm a fan of Al-Qadim Muhammad. I think he's going to do
another Hicks-like guy. Maybe not to the level, but what I mean is a guy that comes in, and maybe the fans don't have a tremendous amount of expectations for, but he's the type of guy that becomes a fan favorite some point during the season just from his motor and the way that he goes and plays.
Yeah, I like this question. I know they started to show up later, but let's do this. I think it's a good one, Hendricks. Early pick for captains. Give me a couple of names there, Cars, who would be potentially on your list.
So Fields, I think, is the no-brainer.
All day, yep.
So I think Robert Quinn is probably going to be one. I do think that they would, especially if they're negotiating a deal, I think that they would probably put one on Roquan.
Let me throw a name out here that maybe not everybody's going to talk about, but he's a guy that's been around. And he's always been a contributor. Is DeAndre Houston Carson? I would have zero problems putting a captain patch on that guy.
Yeah, he'd be your special teams guy. And look, we love that guy just because he just does his job.
Yep.
Week in, week out, consistency. For a 6th round pick, what he's been able to do and carve out for himself from a really small school is impressive. I'd have no problem with him. It was like he'd be like the Sherrick McManus at that point, right? And that's a great call.
Yep. And I think I see a lot of Monty in there too. I could see that. I mean, Flus has talked openly about him, and that's kind of my point when I was listening to him talk about Jalen Johnson. You compare and contrast of how he was talking about David Montgomery earlier and how he is talking about Jalen Johnson now. I mean, it's a pretty stark difference. Will that show up in times of contract extensions for David Montgomery? I don't think so, and I don't even want to go down that fucking rabbit hole because
But Vincent is also right. I think the way they've been talking about Lucas Patrick, who is looking to be the leader that we've wanted. I think, the way I look at it, you have 5 captains, 2 on offense, 2 on defense, and 1 on special teams. It would not shock me if it was Lucas Patrick over Monty. It's not a shot against Monty. He is an individual contributor, much like Roquan. He's not known to be very vocal. He just works his ass off. There's, again, it's not slighting him for that. But Lucas seems to be a very vocal, leadership-focused guy, and he's got some experience in a winning situation. Those things tend to lead them to be captains.
Yeah, and I mean, what did he sign, a 2-year deal? I think Lucas Patrick was. That's a guy, if you get to November and he's exceeding all expectations as a captain, he's 100% a guy that you invest into and spend some of that 2023 cap money and, solidifying a spot on that offensive line long term. So I think that's another great name. And I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. Nobody is talking about Cody Whitehair, and I don't know if that's
he's forgotten.
He really has. And I think he's been a guy that has regressed every year since he signed that contract. I know he was a guy that was very, very close with Mitch Trubisky. And to me, he's out of shape. I hope he's
got this Josh Sitton. Sorry to cut you off. The Josh Sitton pod, right?
Did you just apologize for cutting me off, man. We might have to kick Phil off this network, man. This is so polite.
Which you remember when Sitton came, part of the reason was he always had a problem getting into shape. And that's, I do think, and one of the things that we'll focus on as we get closer to the season too, though, is the kind of the wide zone that we're going to do blocking scheme, I think plays to him a lot better. when we drafted him, they always talked about he's got that in a phone booth strength kind of thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to have that strength anymore.
It's all in his gut. Yeah.
Yeah. But if when we get to the wide zone, right, and you're kind of doing these stretch run plays and you're getting Cody more into space, Cody's not a guy that you want mauling with somebody 70 snaps a game. He's someone you want to pull and get out on the outside and get in space. And that, again, is the beauty of this wide zone that they're going to be running. This is a year that either kind of makes Cody and keeps him here, or it's one that makes him very cuttable afterwards.
Yep, totally agree. And I think you and I and Ryan Cox talked about this last night a little bit too, just via text on this offensive line, however it unfolds. I cannot sign off on these guys just saying, all right, we're going to try this guy here and then we're going to flip-flop them. I want them to come to fucking training camp with a pretty solid idea of who 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to be, where they're expected to be. I realize some of the guys on the interior can switch around, but if they have their best fucking 5, they've done it every coaching staff, Cars. They've literally taken their most talented offensive linemen and they've bounced them around from place to place. Cody, Kyle Long. They did it with oh Jesus, I'm blanking on the guy's name. It was a little bit before that, but they just do it constantly with these guys. And honestly, I think if Cody Whitehair would have come in from day one and been in the position that they drafted him to be in, I think he would have been a better player for it now, because he putting him into center and then back outside, back inside, back outside, and then to the other side. It didn't do him any good. Kyle Long was the same type of deal. When he was healthy and playing that right guard spot, he was a fucking animal. And then he started to break down and
they couldn't figure it out. Yeah, It was bad. So Northside, just for your question real quick, if you want to look at Shanahan's scheme, so you're talking San Francisco, you're talking the world champion Rams, you're talking about what the Packers have been running. Anything that really comes out of the Shanahan tree, and you got to remember, like, a lot of those run schemes, really, to his credit, are really kind of Kirk Ferentz based, right? Like, he's really the father of that as a scheme. And that parlays, though, into why they drafted the guys that they did, because now you're looking at traits, at guys getting into space. Like, I think we've talked a little bit about it. Like, Braxton Jones, I think, is a player that they are ridiculously high on. And I think Braxton very much has a shot at that starting left tackle position. So that one, I think I don't think they're as sold on Borum as the old staff was.
So in that theory, you would be putting Jones at left tackle, pushing Jenkins to right tackle, and then Borum would be your first guy, essentially or are you pushing him?
Borum is
inside?
Probably your swing tackle, is my take on this right now. I think if the right guard spot is a bit of a unknown, it wouldn't shock me if it's Zachary at right guard. It wouldn't shock me if I think Carter's more of the left guard type of person, but Carter is someone I'm extremely intrigued by at this point. So that's the way I look at it. I think, and I know Phil will always disagree, but I think Tevin Jenkins is your ideal right tackle. And in a league where you kind of need two good ones, there's no shame in that.
This is my thought process on that, Cars. I think he has the ability to play there, and Phil and I have talked about this numerous times. My point is, if Ryan Poles came into the situation and to him, he looked at Tevin Jenkins and said, that dude's a fucking left tackle, he would have been there from fucking
Absolutely.
day one.
Absolutely.
There wouldn't have been any question about it. So to me, it's really
get him in his final position.
Yeah, it's like, all right, we think he's here. We're gonna put him there, and it doesn't make Phil right, doesn't make Phil wrong. I mean, 100%. I mean, there was a lot of people. Phil was taking a lot of grief from people as bad as Charles Leno was. There was a lot of people that are like, it doesn't. And I part of me was I didn't really expect them to cut Leno when they did, just for the simple fact of
that's funny.
You didn't really have to. But at the same time, Phil's like, no, you got to fucking launch this dude. And, so that point. But to me, I just looking at things the way that I tend to look at things, it makes no sense. If there is any shred of optimism in their brain that they think that he's a left tackle, he would have opened every mini camp, every OTA training camp.
Yeah.
He would be there from day one, and it would just be a non-question after that. It'd be Tevins at left tackle, and then everything else beyond that is going to fill in.
And they would have loudly said that. A lot has been made about Poles and his offensive line, and I think his influence, Shayne, is going to be that thing that eliminates our biggest concern. I don't think this is going to be a thing. If Braxton Jones, let's just say, can't beat out Larry Borum for the left tackle, I don't think then they're going to be like, okay, well, we'll make him a right guard for right now. No, they're going to keep working on him at left tackle so that next season he could supplant him, or if an injury happens, he can fill in. So I think that is the way. I think that's the beauty of what Poles and them do. And I think if you guys listened a little bit to Hogue and Johns on their podcast this week.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this, and this is very important.
Yeah, Johns flat out mentioned, so Cunningham and Poles are on the field watching, and the way Johns positioned it was Poles would not stop looking at the offensive line. He is everything you want in maniacal in trying to fix that and recognize that. And so because of that, this is going to be a partnership. I think one of the other big issues in the Pace Nagy thing is it wasn't so much of a partnership. It was each of them trying to kind of dictate where a guy went. I think this is a partnership with Morgan and with Getsy as to where these guys are. And they're going to look at this as an organization problem that they're going to fix together. So yeah, I think we're going to get over that part. And I don't think it's any shame at Borum, but as you and I were talking in earlier, Jordan Mills looked really good in the beginning of his rookie season for a late round draft pick.
Yeah.
And then fell off. And kind of as Borum got more snaps and more things, he didn't look as good as he did early on. There's no shame in that. There's a rookie curve, but there could have been enough from that perspective. He's got great footwork, but he wasn't overpowering. He didn't seem to have the nasty streak that they're looking for that, again, Braxton Jones has. And I think those are the reasons that these things are happening.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Hey, end of the day, this is a business, and Ryan Poles was not here when they brought in Larry Borum.
Yes.
So and if people want to say that, oh, I love Larry Borum and he's a player, I understand it, and you can like the guy. It doesn't matter what we think. I mean, we're gonna hold them accountable if they're cutting guys that we don't think that they should cut. But end of the day, it's what Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham believe in, and they made it. Hey, he fell to the 5th round. Ryan Poles may not have drafted him in the 5th round. We don't know that. So that's what, to me, I know it's different going to training camp now, but I am fascinated to see how they're going to line these guys up, even with the backups and where they're going to be, because I think it's going to be, for the first time in recent memory with me, there's more than one guy beyond the 5 starters that I'm intrigued with that have talent. And that's something Jesus, Cars, they drafted Tayo Fabulage, and we were, this kid was great as a freshman at Texas, and we're like, maybe they unearthed this gem. Well, these Cunningham has been a big part. Who's a team that believes in defensive line and offensive line? The Philadelphia Eagles. That's why you saw them trade up for Jordan Davis this year. They unearthed the rugby player a couple of years ago. He's like 6'8", 385, whatever the fuck he is. But they invest in that over and over and over again. And there are so many guys, like, we say this a lot, but really this year, these preseason games, when they bring in the backups and then they bring in the third string, it's going to be fascinating. Really on both sides of the ball to see who's playing, but really this offensive line to me is really going to be it's I don't know. Everybody's worried about Justin Fields and excited to see where that's going to go, but to me, there is a lot of guys. There's a lot of components to work with there that the Bears have never had. You talked about Jatiri Carter, and the Bears would have one guy like that, but now we have a guy like Braxton Jones that we're legitimately excited to watch tape on and see the attitude that Ryan Poles has been talking about. You bring in a guy like Lucas Patrick, who has assumed a leadership role from day one. And
remember when we tried to convince ourselves about Sam Mustipher's leadership, and it really was non-existent. And this is a guy willing to be up front and center. Kind of a play on words, but I'm sorry. But it's, these are things we're missing. And you and I have talked about it before. We sat here and chat on offensive game plans for 4 years under Matt Nagy, right? There was so much to pick apart. And it's really foolish to sit down and think that it can't get any better and that the talent is what's going to be what's hold us. Schematically, there are things that we can do. You're not going to see a Cleveland game where they're teeing off and we're not sticking another tight end to help chip on Miles, right? Like you're not going to see those things. You're going to see a professional staff with a game plan that's going to come through with punches and counter punches. And that's going to make the whole thing better.
Yeah, and that's what people are talking about. I mean, how many times has Phil sat here and said no play that he runs is setting up something else in the third quarter? And that was Matt Nagy was literally playing Madden. It felt like, oh, we're going to throw we'll try this.
He was running Tecmo Bowl because it was only 4 plays all over and over again. And then he was Nope. So true. I mean, I'm less concerned about the offensive line, I think, than I expected to be. And again, I don't have 12 and 5 dreams, but for me, the way this curve has to go is it starts a little slow, and this has got to be the way the season ends. Doesn't necessarily mean that we need to win more at the end, but what it means is we need to see the growth out of 1. We need to see the growth out of 11. We need to see the growth out of Komet, because I think those are the things that we have to see. That's what this season is all about. And if they're right, that Fields is a chef and that they could piece everything together.
Talk about that and tell them what you're talking about there, because that's a Matt Waldman thing that's where that all derived from, Cars. But I think it's a great point and extremely important heading into camp here. But talk about that.
So if you guys remember, it was the Fields draft. We talked about Chef versus Baker. So when you think about
not Baker Mayfield, an actual Baker versus
who is, Chef. But actually his play style is a Baker. So it does kind of work. So there's two schools of thought. A baker is a person that if you give them the recipe and the ingredients, they can put it together and make it work, right? So if you look at what you tend to be concerned as or called game managers or guys that you can win with, Alex Smith was a very good baker. At the high end, I will always say that the best baker of all time will always be Tom Brady. It wasn't that he wasn't good, but he schematically was given a lot of things to help that through. Those guys, teams tend to focus a lot about surrounding them with. Let's use Baker Mayfield, right? They had to add a Jarvis Landry and Njoku, Austin Hooper, and OBJ. And they did all of these things to try to bring out the very best in those things. With a chef, the idea is I can just throw you 2 eggs, a piece of wire, and something else, and this person will concoct something from this. So when you look at the great chefs, you're talking about Mahomes, you're talking about your Aaron Rodgers of the world, these guys who elevate the play of the people around them. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't necessarily benefit from, having, 3 all-pro wide receivers, but those are the guys that can elevate the play around them. And so when you take a step back, I was one who was hollering for wide receivers. I thought they were going to do it. But I think the statement that people have made that they clearly don't believe in Josh Fields is one of the dumbest things. Justin. Sorry. In Fields is one of the dumbest things I could think of because it's the exact opposite. What this offseason shows me is that the Bears believe so much in Justin Fields that they know he can elevate the play around him, that they know that they're going to give him pieces. They're going to give him plays, right? You saw in some of the OTA stuff, the way that they're moving the pocket more, that they're going to have him on the move, that there's going to be play action, that they're going to do all of those different things. And so what they're looking for this offense to take the next leap, they're not looking at it from Darnell Mooney and Montgomery and Kmet making the leap. They're looking at it as number one, his play pushing Monty, Mooney, Kmet to make the leap. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win a Super Bowl, but it does mean that you've got a guy now that gives you so much more freedom to make these plays and to do these things. And we see the way that he studies the field, the film. We see that he's one of the hardest workers in and out of the building. We talk about leadership. He's a natural leader, so he has these positive traits. But I think that he is someone right now that the Bears, we again made a big deal at the early press conference where they weren't too effusive with the praise for him. They were pretty laid back. But everything else that's happened since then has just screamed at how much they believe in Justin.
Yeah,
so
totally.
That's my diatribe. That's my Phil rant that I can't yell. So that's how that works.
No, man, I think it's important. Everybody know, hey, as a Bears fan, we're that person that's been in the desert for 48 hours with nothing to drink, and you see the mirage, and that's our core. We're starving for a quarterback. And to me, I don't think there's any doubt about this. I think he's the most physically gifted. I mean, I know you can put a guy like Jay Cutler. I think Justin Fields is even more physically gifted than even Jay Cutler was.
Yes.
And I think the national media just loves to play on the fact that, hey, let's be obvious, we're an easy fucking target to make fun of because the Bears you get one good season and then you regress for 3 and then you build back up and the excitement comes back in and the fan base believes again, and then you get kicked in the nuts again. And so it's, we're easy prey for the national media. And I mean, I would invite anybody that wants to debate if the Bears believe in Justin Fields, if they think that he's their franchise quarterback. You have an open door policy here. I'll debate you and you're going to lose flat fucking out. This team they're trying to build it the right way.
They don't want to do what Jacksonville did.
Exactly.
You don't want to go out and spend $18 million on a guy that's not worth it. Does it suck? Absolutely.
Is Christian Kirk in Jacksonville in 2024, 2025? Probably 2025. No, he's not. You know that. And that's what it is.
Just like Tarik won't be in Miami in 2025 either.
Yeah, totally agree. And I am so excited. And let's really double down on this Justin Fields talk, because you've seen the talk about them, working on his motion, and you and Ryan brought up a great point when we were talking on that too, Cars. It's not so much about his throwing motion, because at the end of the day, when we had Austin Carter-Samuels on talking about that, he actually looks at it like a bad thing, because he's like, that motion got him drafted in the top 11 picks of the NFL draft. And if you rework that entire thing, we've seen
no idea where it's going to be.
And the thing about it is you've seen the compact motion and stuff like that, Cars. But then when you go to chicagobears.com and look at minicamp pictures, you see when his little hitch is there and his elbow, and he's got the Carson Wentz ball down. He's going to revert. It's that muscle memory. You're going to go back to what you're comfortable with.
When you're tired, especially. Yes, absolutely.
100%. But you talked about that the mechanics aren't so much his arm as it is his feet, and where that is absolutely critical. Year after year after year, we would hear Mitch get up I'm really working on my feet. And it was the same fucking issue over and over and over again with Mitch. His feet were everywhere, all over the place, wondering why that you are wildly inconsistent throwing the deep ball. And that's one of the most underrated aspects of Justin Fields' game, is the deep ball. And that's you're talking about the wide zone, Cars, and relying a little bit more on the run this year. You're going to see those play action passes. You're going to see Darnell Mooney. You're going to see Velus Jones. You're going to see shots to Cole Kmet down the fucking seam. Finally, we're going to see things like that. His deep ball is massively underrated, I believe. I mean, it's one of his best attributes.
He's one of the more accurate guys in the NFL on a deep ball. Yeah. And to your point with the footwork, when you're taking larger steps, it makes some of those throws way more, because you're overcompensating. When you throw your balance off, right, you're compensating. So you see the footwork, and you do see, yes, their windup is there, but it is faster. It is a faster get through, which is going to help him with tip balls at the line, which he had a couple of this last season. So I think it will. We always look at the Tampa game with Mitch that first year, right, when everything was clicking. And you saw like the deep passes to Gabriel, and we saw what we did to Trey Burton. And those just were not consistently there.
Nope.
It's going to be consistently here. Not only are we going to take those shots, but we're going to complete our fair share of those shots. And that's what's going to open all of this up. It's not just going to be Mooney, right? It's going to be Velus. It's probably going to be Equanimous.
Yeah.
I would argue till I'm blue in the face that Ebner has a big part of this offense coming through.
He's going to be a slot receiver more so than a running back. Would you agree?
You're going to see a lot of double running back situations. And I would even say you're going to see some 3 running back sets with Herbert, Monty, and Ebner, and moving them around. Like where Herbert and Monty are passable route runners, Ebner is much better, but they can do things where moving them that you're going to have to respect them enough as route runners. So yeah, absolutely. Like the big plays are going to be there. And this is my dream for this. I don't care if we go 3-14 or 14-3 or anything in between. What I want is like first year of Tressman offense, when it's like we can score from anywhere on the field, and it feels like that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think to your point, when you're just remove ability and just, I mean, speed alone, how different it's going to be when you have a guy like Velus. Just say if you put Mooney and Velus Jones outside, I don't even give a shit if you're going to throw him the ball. You have to respect the speed.
Absolutely.
You have to respect the speed. That's where your point with a guy like Ebner, with Monty in the fucking backfield, with Cole Kmet, down the seam.
Kevin's got a great point too, though. Blazing game is
oh my god,
super fast.
Watch what he did to the Bears in the 3rd and 12. He took it 48 against the Bears in a preseason game on a 3rd and maybe it might have even been 3rd and 18.
Yeah.
It's at 100%. That is a great point, Kevin, because he is a guy that brings the speed element at a position that the Bears have just. I mean, Michael Burton, I think that was the last guy that saw any play really as a fullback in the Bears offense.
JP Holtz.
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, tight end. But.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like, we haven't had this since McKee, right? McKee was really the last good use of a fullback that we had. And again, what was the staple? West Coast, kind of a Shanahan Turner thing, and it makes a big deal.
Totally agree. So off of that, you brought up a guy like JP Holtz. Do you think I know a lot of people want to know where the next move potentially could be. I'm not. I think Allen, the UDFA, the tight end, I think they're probably obviously very high on. It's I'm not sure what happened, what unfolded with Jesper, and it's got to be a sizable injury. I don't know if it's a season ender or whatever, but could you potentially see the next move maybe being there at tight end? Because it's Cole Kmet, hey, as bad as he was at points last year, to me, a light came on later in the season. He started to do some things. You and I talked about this quite a bit, Cars, when he was drafted. It's not a 1 or a 2 year thing with a lot of these tight ends, and that year 3 is
he's 23.
Extremely. I know. Yep. But could you see another move being made at tight end to bring another body in there?
Not right now, no. Because again, this is reading of the tea leaves, but I think they've got some belief in Cole Kmet making that leap, right? It's 2 years in, he'll be 24. I think what we're seeing there is some belief. And listen, belief doesn't mean he's going to be Kittle, right? I think
he's not going to be Kittle.
Yeah,
they're not the same player.
Mark Andrews is probably the best potential comp because Mark has
sign me up.
Yes, but Mark isn't the fastest guy.
Yep.
He runs a little awkwardly, but he's a technician and he knows how to get open. And so I think that's really what they're going to do. I think Chase Allen has a really good shot at this 100%. Roster. I think if you look at it, Ryan Jensen,
I would be surprised at this point if he's not on the opening day roster. Allen,
completely agree, because he's a combo guy, right? Yep. And a lot of these guys are. And you have to remember, again, if you look at San Francisco and Green Bay, and even to a degree, the Rams, right? You're going to see a heavy dose of 12 personnel. It's what you have to really be a good offense in the NFL. You have to be good users of the 12. You have to use it a fair amount. You're talking probably about 25, 30% of your plays, but you have to be a threat to both run and pass out of that formation. Cole Kmet is a guy that, if you believe in him, he's a pretty good blocker for a tight end. He's a decent enough wide receiver. If he just takes a mini step, if he gets that next elevation, that opens everything.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great point. I think that they could. The kid that they picked up, I believe it was from the Giants. What is
you talking about, Jensen or
O'Shaughnessy?
No,
not. I actually forgot about O'Shaughnessy. The kid that they replaced They replaced Horsted. Yeah, it was the
Right. No, I'm sorry. Rice and John.
Rice and John. Yeah, he's an all upside. I believe he's like 6'7", 240. He's got some. To me, I mean, I don't know. Is he would I be a little bit shocked if he's making the 53 out the gate? I would be. He's probably more of a practice squad guy.
Remember that guy from Virginia a couple years ago, the former basketball player that we had done? Like it feels like one of those moves.
Yeah, it's actually we chat on Twitter every now and again. I think we had him on the show. Jesus, I'll have to look back and see. Maybe we'll get him back. But no, I think it's a great point because I think that you're going to be Cole Kmet is a key to a lot of this because you talk about Mooney and Velus Jones with what they can provide just with the speed element. And then let's be honest, Velus Jones wasn't just brought in for we're going to break him down. It is going to go this Sunday. If you're a TTNL Network patron, we have a full comprehensive breakdown on Velus Jones that we're going to go in depth on him. It'll be this Sunday, I believe at 4 p.m. If that changes, we'll let you know. But either way, it's definitely going to be going down this Sunday. So if you're not a patron and you want to be, it's right there at the bottom of the screen. You can scan the QR code and it'll take you there. Go to the tapeneverlies.com. We'll be breaking down Velus live on air, showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly and why they made the pick. But the point is he wasn't just brought in here simply because of his speed. Cars, he's going to be their ultimate chess piece. You talk about a guy like Ebner who is drafted as a running back that may not see a whole bunch of carries as a running back. I think he's going to be the
he
guy
may see more targets than carries.
Absolutely. I think you're going to see him more as a slot, like I talked about, and just go. This is what we do here, and go just watch a few games of Ebner and some of the catches that guy makes. And I'll be 100. I'm just going to keep it 100 with you. I didn't have a whole lot on Ebner. I mean, when you're doing this draft, when you're breaking guys down in the draft, I knew who he was. I just didn't have a whole lot on him because there's only so many hours in the day. But man, he's a guy that's not being talked about enough, and that I think is going to be potentially a guy that surprises a lot in this offense with what he can do, because his hands are, David Montgomery, I think, has very underrated hands, but I'm looking at a guy like Matt Forte had really nice, he could make a lot of plays.
Receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. Ebner is that guy. Another guy that Lance Briggs talked about. Lance Briggs, like, I was breaking down Ebner, and he's like, I was legitimately excited for Justin Fields to have this kid because he's the ultimate relief valve. You know what I mean? That can get you out of trouble, to have that guy there when you're clearing guys out, when just talk about Jones and Mooney and then Kmet down the seam, having the ability to dump off to Demo or catching a guy in the slot like with Ebner. That just brings a lot of versatility. Absolutely. When was the last time we saw that?
And if you looked at the videos, right, like some of the deep balls that Fields was throwing, it looked like it was going to Ebner, right? So, I mean, you're seeing, we always talked about like a way that we wanted to see Tarik Cohen. And when he was at his best, he was way more utilized as a pass catcher out of the backfield. And then for whatever reason, they started to move him more into the slot for those things. And he took over, Gabriel's spot basically as the slot guy. I think you're going to see Ebner where he's going to be coming out of the backfield for a lot of routes. I think one of the, again, we talk about a lot of different things, but it would be fun to see Ebner and Blazingame lined up in an I formation into a play action, and both of those guys sneaking out for routes, right? Like, there is so much positional flexibility now that if Getsy is the guy that we think he could be, you're you're kind of going to line up and kind of go, I have no idea where the ball is going. I have no idea where it's going. Where in the past it felt like this looks like it's going to be a run play and it's a run play.
Sure.
This lineup looks like it's going to be a pass play and it's a pass play. It's intriguing now for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, just to keep it a buck here, HL talks about Cohen. I think we're not going to play the video, but everybody sees. I know we busted on Tarik quite a bit, and it wasn't never anything personal. It was all based more so what we saw, on the tape. But to go through, even remove what happened yesterday with him training, to go through what he's went through, and then to see him get back on the field and I mean, I know this is rude, but if you watch the tape, Tarik he doesn't even look like himself to me. I mean, he's carrying a lot of extra weight, which I guess is probably understandable. You can't get out there and run and work out, but just to bring it to basketball, and you look at a guy like Derrick Rose, who was so athletic, so explosive, and then he tore that knee up, and then when you tear a knee up, you're compensating in other areas, and then you can then it was his meniscus, and then he was rolling his ankle, and then you see this with Tarik now with the Achilles. Just I feel so bad for Tarik Cohen, just the human being. All bullshit aside, I became a Tarik Cohen fan again after reading that, because hey, end of the day, we don't know what's going on in everybody's lives off the field. And I think it's a testament to Tarik that, and really the Chicago Bears. I'm going to say something about the Bears. I know everybody was pissed off and say, what is the real deal with Tarik and his injuries? You have to give the Bears a little bit of credit here, because don't forget that Tarik Cohen didn't talk about this until just last week. So he may not have wanted the Bears to talk about it either. And the Bears, ended up looking like punks originally for not talking about it. But I think end of the day, they were probably just being respectful of Tarik's.
That's a lot to go
wishes.
Through.
Oh man, you're not kidding. But man, I watched that and I cringed. I felt so bad for the guy, because that is
that you want to do well. He's overcome so much, from size to school, right? Like him making the Pro Bowl as a return man. He was electric. Yeah, sometimes he was absolutely frustrating, but it looked like he never was able to recover from that knee, and to finally maybe be on the road to recovery, to lose that weight because of the knee and then to blow out your Achilles.
Oh, sad.
It speaks, his whatever he does after this will speak tremendous volumes as to how mentally tough that guy is to overcome. I don't know. I don't know how you keep pushing through and fighting and doing this with what he's been through, which sounds ridiculous because of the amount of money he has. But in the end, we're all human. And if you've got one brother who's been shot and is in problems, and the other is now dead, and you're, that's so much to handle. I just give that guy credit for how strong he is.
Yeah, I mean, not to bring up my situation, but I said, Cars, you and I talk on a daily basis, and there's a lot going on like in my life, and I feel the stress from that. But at the end of the day, I still have my son here. My mom is dealing with her stuff, but I still have my mom here. Tarik's situation, you talk about the stress on top of it, and then not having that sounding board in your twin brother and then another brother on top of it. And that's next level awful. And it's just remove football. I hope Tarik has spent his money wisely and saved, been fiscally responsible, because I just want Tarik to get healthy for Tarik, the human being, where he can He can be the best father he can be. And I know I've seen a lot of people, somebody in the chat just had it, and I've seen it on Twitter, that the Bears need to bring him back to be an ambassador, but that's not the time for that right now. Tarik,
he wants to try to fight,
exactly, and he should. He deserves every second of trying to come back. And the Bears, I'm sure, have reached out and talked to him, his teammates and stuff like that. But if the Bears bring him back as a team ambassador and stuff like that right now, that's essentially Tarik signing off on his playing days, and he's not, and he deserves every chance he gets to attempt to come back, and I hope he does. Yep.
He's made his life out of being told that he won't, that he wasn't big enough, that he wasn't strong.
Absolutely.
Like, he carried that chip to the Pro Bowl in the NFL. So you want this kid to do this. You want him to succeed in some way. And, he strikes me as a guy, especially with that letter. Like, he's a guy that can go do a lot of speaking to kids. He could make, he's got a wonderful personality overall. And so if football isn't in the cards for him, I hope that like motivational talking and working with troubled kids is something that he does, because I think he's very gifted in that regard.
Yeah, and Vincent had a question here. Do you guys think Cohen tried the intense training too early? I don't think it's a question of that at all, Vincent. I mean, he's got trainers that, and that's if you tear your ACL, you're not walking normal. I mean, the old term is you have a little hitch in your giddy up, and your body is compensating. It's putting more stress on your ankles. It's putting more stress everywhere but your knee. And that's when I brought up Derrick Rose. Your body, you're going to have more problems. You get the atrophy in your calves, and it leads to calf issues, and then having an issue with your calf can obviously lead to Achilles issues. But I think a lot of what Tarik was out of shape because he's always been a smaller guy, that everything with his game was based off of explosion. And just, I don't know did you watch the video, Cars? He looked quite heavy to me.
Because I mean, at that height, anything that you do is
and I'm not bagging on him for being
no,
in that situation. These guys are different animals. They're used to eating, sleeping, and breathing, their workout regimens and stuff like that. And you get that taken away, it's gonna add up. But
as a pro football player, you can go sit down and eat a dozen donuts and it not impact you because of the workouts that you're going to do. And so when you can't do those anymore, right, all of a sudden you're going to maintain your same eating routine.
What?
And those
exactly,
things
Angela.
Just go.
Yes. But yeah, it's just good luck to Tarik, and
absolutely.
I hope in I don't, obviously he's not going to be there this year and into 2023. You never know how that stuff is going to go, but I hope at some point we're able to root Tarik Cohen on the football field again. And I think it would be a great comeback story, not just as a Bears fan, but just as a human being element, because he definitely deserves it. I know there was some people talking about, did you get to watch the Trevor Siemian presser at all, Cars?
A little bit, yeah.
Talking about that. I know everybody was getting excited about the Kyler Gordon interception, and I was actually driving when I think Ryan Cox shared that with you and I, and I'm like, oh, please tell me Justin Fields did not, because that was a wildly underthrown ball. Kyler Gordon did make a great play on it, but he was speaking about Getsy and his offense and his, teaching. But speak on that a little bit and how that's going to affect the young signal caller number one, Justin Fields, moving forward.
Well, I thought it was interesting that, Siemian had other opportunities to go to, and he specifically chose here because of Getsy and the scheme, right? So I think one of the things that we've talked about the most is the biggest hurdle for Justin right now is he's never been in a timing offense. Timing in Ohio State was always wait a half a second more and see if somebody gets open. Right. And the reverse of that in this offense is going to be throw a half second sooner than you normally think. Right. So there is that portion. But I think when he's talking about like the ball is going to be out quick, that speed is going to be there, that you're schematically, guys are going to be open, that you can look at these things and see how the run game and the pass game marry up to open things up. There's a lot of excitement for the way that Getsy is coaching, very hands-on. Like the one thing to pull back, the one thing I'm the most excited for in this staff is how ridiculously hands-on they all are. How everybody has been called, Jimmy Moore, I think it is the defensive backs coach. Like, if you read profiles of all these guys, they're always considered great hands-on coaches. And so I think it just speaks volumes when you watch that and listen to Trevor. Like he's been around. He's been through what? He's been at Denver. I think he's been at Minnesota. And so he's seen these things. He understands the scheme.
New Orleans too, I believe, right?
That's right, correct. So I found it just between what he said and what Lucas Patrick said about Getsy and the scheme and his coaching and his likability and his aggressiveness and his hands-on, it just, there's so much positivity that I'm uncomfortable with. I'm uncomfortable with how positive everybody is. Like James Rowe, thank you. James Rowe fits in. I appreciate that. All these guys, it's just fun to think that I like the defensive staff, Shayne, but I think the offensive staff is even better than what we've done on defense. And so
and that's the thing. You bring guys here for a reason, and people can say that this doesn't matter, but I look at Matt Nagy and him in his first time gig coming to the Chicago Bears with Mitch Trubisky already here, and not a fucking person came with him. I know Brad Childress, but then he left just as quick as he got here and then came back and left again. Cars, we're invested in this, and I know we're not in deep with every NFL team like we are the Bears, but we pay attention to the league. I'm not sure I've ever seen that before, where a guy comes and there's nobody at all. And
remember the issues that caused, right? Matt was sitting at early press conferences talking about how he had to teach the offense to stand to everyone not named Brad Childress. And part of the reason he was so excited that Brad was here was that Brad was the other person that knew the scheme.
Yeah.
Like Ragone was coming up. He didn't know this. And so his whole thing was, this is my offense and we need to make this our offense.
Yep.
And when you assemble the staff, like if we pull back, you look at Tyke, who's a really well-known wide receiver coach, but he has done passing game coordinator stints. If you look at Janako at quarterback, he's done passing game coordinator. If you look at Morgan at offensive line, he's done run game coordinator. So it's not just that he didn't have anybody, but like he hired Harry Heastand to be an offensive line coach and run game coordinator. Heastand had never been a run game coordinator ever.
Right.
And he was now asked to figure out how to marry a blocking scheme that really wasn't his to a running scheme that didn't make a whole lot of sense. So now, I said it the other day, like it was a big deal that Getsy already called it our offense, that they're all familiar with the background, that they're all coming together that way.
Right.
And to kind of complete your question, like it is night and day because in 3 years, the staff that we have hired, Getsy's going to be a head coach probably within 2 years if he is anything. Tyke and Janako are going to be guys that are moving on to OC gigs within a year or two. Janako might be the guy that replaces Getsy should he move on, right? So like
they could be guys that get hired in whoever Ian Cunningham takes over.
Exactly. And so this is the first time you look where when we looked, Ragone was the only guy that really had a possibility because of his young age. Heaston was never going to be a head coach. He was never going to be an offensive coordinator. I forget who was the first offensive coordinator from Oregon again? Helfrich. Thank you.
Shared an agent with Matt Nagy.
That's right. It was the weirdest marriage.
I shouldn't say that too much because Poles and Eberflus share the same agent, but that's
yes.
Fine.
But now we've talked about like it feels like they have built this for the long term with a track of guys to replace and rebuild, where Nagy was just kind of like, I need to get a body in here. And I've only worked with Andy Reid, so I only have Andy Reid tree guys, and all of them are kind of in gigs right now because Philly was winning and Kansas City was winning, and it was just a big loss. So it is when Childress left to go coach whatever defunct league he went to, that is when everything went bad for the Bears immediately. Like that was a negative. I don't think we truly appreciated how bad that was.
Right.
Until
totally
now.
Agree. Should we play a trick on Cherie since she's not paying attention in the background? Cherie. Cherie. Where is she? She's going to come back in and hear this music.
And yes, Anthony, he did have Juan Castillo, but it was after 2 to 3 years of, it was too late at that point. And the hardest part that Matt ever had was because he had no run game experience and the two guys he hired kind of really didn't have run game coordinator. The run and the pass game never married up. And without ripping it down to studs, which is something he should have done last offseason, and he never did it.
100%.
It was just never going to be a thing.
Yeah, when you have any questions about your front office and your coaching staff, I will never. Hey, we all wanted quarterback last year, and I think we're all signing off on the pick of Justin Fields. But at the same time, anybody, I think, with a brain could have made that pick. Obviously, they had to move up, but the thinking that Justin Fields was going to come here with the amount of chaos in this organization with Ted Phillips, with George McCaskey, with Ryan Pace, with Matt Nagy, thinking that he is the entire, purpose of this offense. I don't want to go backwards with just keeping on talking about those guys, but I think it's absolutely relevant. It rarely, if ever, works out when you're saying, all right, this is going to be our saving grace. We're going to bring in a quarterback, and you see it so often. It's a one and done type situation. We knew that they weren't moving on from Justin Fields, nor should they. And hey, we see what it is, but man, no, I totally agree. Bring in the boys here real quick. There she is, Cherie. We were playing your music. Where were you?
I heard you. I had to step away for a minute.
Oh, I tell you. We noticed that you and Bratcher left at the same time. So do you want to own up on that? Funny business going on? I won't reveal the private. I won't reveal the private chat here that we have access to, Cherie.
First of all, I text Claudio to let him know I was stepping away.
Who?
Claudio.
I have to meet this Claudio guy at some point.
Someday I'll meet him. Yeah.
Maybe you should have pizza with him someday, Shayne.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean. It's Claudia. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Charles. So, Cherie, licking your lips and ready to mingle here, girl?
No.
Talk about a little below the waist manscaping?
Oh, I guess.
Don't sound so.
I'll make it easy. I'm gonna step away for a second, so one less person whispering into your ear.
I didn't even have the whispers last week. I need the whispers. It helps with nerves.
All right.
Oh, okay, good.
All right.
Yeah,
baby.
I don't have Jackal's heavy breathing in the phone. And in the microphone.
But Cherie, we have a new coupon code, right?
We sure do. Wait, it's the same one, right? From last week.
Yeah, same one.
Okay.
I mean, saying that, yeah, we unveiled the new coupon code
Yes.
last week. So let's
So
kick it off.
Summer is here. The sun is shining, and your man's balls are smoother than Timothy Chalamet's chest.
They are.
Oh, yeah.
I get compliments on my balls all the time, Cherie.
Hopefully from Ela. I don't know who else.
Hey. So many ball washers, so little time, Cherie. I could live in the fucking Philippines.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of balls, baller.
Yeah, baller. All right, Cherie, do your
Mr.
thing.
Jack
I'm sorry.
Baller. Picture yourself all cheeked up on the beach this summer with not a hair in sight peeking from that bikini line. And wait, yeah. So your bikini line in the trunks. Skip the Brazilian this summer and use Manscaped for the smooth tools you trust for your man and yourself. Make this summer smooth and fresh with Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, the trimmer everyone loves, the Lawnmower 4.0. Dive headfirst into summer by joining. What the hell?
Super smooth, baby.
Dive headfirst into summer by joining the 4 million
Dive in that head first.
worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for hot girl summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off, please, plus free shipping with the code YOKO. So like I said, personally who never used the Manscaped product, but this is interesting to learn that they do actually have products for women. So I will have to order my own with that Yoko code and see what that's about. Any of y'all got any funny shaving stories? Or well, I mean, Shayne has always shared that apparently his balls is known worldwide.
So wait, the nickname for his balls is Mr. Worldwide?
Mr. Worldwide.
All right.
My balls are Mr. Worldwide?
That's what I'm hearing. Everybody's seen them.
They're more than a mouthful. Anyways.
Oh my God. Performance Package 4.0 has everything you and your man need to perfect that summer bod. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer.
I didn't do that.
You 40 and up, guys.
Whoa.
Cherie.
Slow you roll.
Hey, that's for calling me old, Shayne.
Look at you. You're telling me that fucking Bratcher isn't a hairy bitch. Look at that fucking mustache. He's got shit growing out of his ears and his nose and all that crazy stuff. Come on.
Thank God we like each other here. Really.
Can tell. Also in the package is the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, which I have heard good reviews about that one. So Shayne, I hope those smooth balls have using the ball.
Hell yeah, Cherie. You know I got to keep my shit straight.
Scorching earth.
Yes.
The Crop Reviver Toner, the Performance.
Ela knows I ain't no bitch, Cherie.
Oh, okay. So I can't ask you about these, the boxer briefs, because I've heard good things about those too. Do those really like?
They lift and separate.
Yeah, that's what
they lift and separate. Yep.
Oh, okay, Cars. Thanks for the insight.
Ask Barb Graham about that.
Who?
Brag's mom.
Who?
Nobody's mom. And you also get a travel bag for anywhere you're going this summer. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to the advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on-off switch that can engage a travel lock and gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. So y'all can even do it in the dark. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof? From the shower to the beach, Lawnmower 4.0 is the best trimmer for down there and everywhere that needs a shave. Once his scrub down there is taken care of, look after the rest with Manscaped's liquid formulations. Before heading outside, make sure he uses Crop Preserver ball deodorant to stay cool in the heat. And after long days mowing the grass, get your crotch garden back to tip-top shape with the Crop Reviver. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. The perfect gifts for staying in or traveling. If your man is using your nail kit, you need to give him the Manscaped Shears 2.0, the package that has everything he'll need to have his nails looking pristine. He needs his own nail clippers, tweezers, and grooming scissors, ladies. Oh my God. Smooth skin shaves only this summer. So get 20% off plus free shipping with the code YOKO at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code YOKO.
I will never look at him the same.
Buns out, suns out this summer with Manscaped.
I will never look at him the same.
Cherie, great job. You're getting so good at this.
Why, thank you.
Very good.
So Cherie, you're we talked a little bit yesterday, and you said you're doing some Cherie time, doing something every weekend to make Cherie happy.
Yes.
So if you're out there and you meet somebody nice and you get to that special moment, Cherie, would you give them the Yoko coupon code and be like, hey,
absolutely, I've already.
You should preserve those balls with this, right?
Yeah,
what the fuck is happening right now? Exactly.
Just giving grooming advice. That's all.
That's it. It's just all about grooming.
Oh,
this whole show is about football and grooming.
Anthony's got a third ball. You might want to get that checked out. I don't know, right?
What are you, Dr. Evil over there? 1, 2, and 3. We're all good here. Let's go.
But Claudio, you're a barber, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, I think
he offers
so,
free trims there too. Yeah,
only the neck up. Only the
neck up.
No, don't get any ideas.
That's not what Angelo Joe Marino from Wallingford, Connecticut said.
That was a one-time thing for Angelo. That's it.
It's the only way to keep him safe from the mafia. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's turn this over now. What's your guys' thoughts on potentially inviting one person on from the chat, bringing them on air to ask a question? Listen, if we're going to do this, it's going to be somebody that we've never had on before, and you have to be a TTNL patron. So if you want to have a chance at this, go over to thetapeneverlies.com to sign up. Put your name in the hopper over here, but you have to have access to stable internet. You have to have a mic, headphones, and a device with a cam on it. So is there anybody out there that's interested? We got Micah Brooks. Are you a patron, sir? Let me look it up. We have so many.
I got a DM from Jack Baller. He wants to come on.
Who?
I think that's Jack.
Check the Adam's apple on that one first.
Yeah.
Check if that one's got an Adam's apple before you let it.
Yeah.
It's always good life advice, by the way.
It's a spam account. It's a spam account.
So yeah, let's actually while we're monitor the chat, but Bratcher, you want to throw up? I see
Smiling.
we have some starred comments up there, some questions from some people.
This is weird. My throat is all dry. I haven't ever had to talk this much on one of these shows, so I don't know what to do.
I kind of miss it. I have not heard. Let me ask you this. I have not heard that one time tonight.
Well, real quick.
Let me ask you this, because Dion Miller was supposed to be on with us, and then we rescheduled Dion. So I always make Phil very aware of when he's interviewing somebody. Almost every question, when it's his turn to finally talk, he'll say,
Let me ask you
this, Dion. He does it. I love it. So it's always pretty fun. But Bratcher, you want to throw a couple of those up?
Yep.
Alex H. Will Roquan get an extension before the season starts? They talked about it today. Cars, I think you'll agree with me here. I think it's going to be very interesting. I don't want to say that I've been critical of Roquan. I just need to see, Cars brought up a great point. I need to see more than the tackle numbers. I need to see game-altering plays. I always go back to the game in Dallas when you saw Lance Briggs and Peanut Tillman both had pick sixes that game. I need to see
that.
I know Roquan had one last year versus Cincinnati that ended up sealing the game for the Bears, but I need to see things like that more consistently. I want to see them deploy him and bring the quarterback down. I want to see him, get some tip balls that lead to picks. I want to see him force some fumbles. It's not just about tackle numbers with me. Do I expect them to sign him? I do. I think in their mind, I think they don't have much of a plan to move on from him. What is Roquan, 24 years old? So the
biggest issue is going to be what you mentioned earlier, that he's his own agent. And we need to remember, that he was a holdout in an era where there were not holdouts, that rookie contracts are pretty much set in stone and there's no reason to. And he fought like hell for language about his if he got suspended, where his money went.
Right.
So I think they want to, but I'll be honest, him being his own agent is a big, not red flag, but it is a big red flag towards the ability to get that done as a deal.
Yeah, let me address this.
Yeah, I was literally about to address that. Yeah,
there's always a person in it's always somebody that has a fake.
Yeah, and it's a third comment about this too. It's a third comment about it.
That's because Eric is probably a jealous little hairy ball bag bitch. But
I think we got one thing to say to him. Ready?
Yeah, it's great. Eric, you don't have access. You have access because you're on YouTube, so you don't have access to all the other numbers, and our numbers are just fine, Eric. So
you didn't even have to pay for them, Shayne.
Yes, we did not. But hey, go scoop some shit out of your yard. But
all right, let's do another
Smiling Cashews. All right, you have to. What is your name on Patreon? So I would need to know that. Because if you wanna come on, you have to be a TTNL patron. So anybody else, while Smiling Cashews is trying to figure out what his name is,
I don't even know what my name is right now, but that's not unusual. That might be the edible talking.
So Cars, if you had to pick a number for Roquan, would it be like 21, 22 million with the market with those other guys around like 19-ish million? Do you think that new jump with the market is maybe potentially going to set him at a higher rate?
That's my biggest concern, is if you look at the Warner and the Leonard deals, right? It starts pushing them towards like 21-ish.
They're both
million.
19 right now. They're both at 19. I think Leonard's a little higher. He's like 19.8 or something like that.
Yeah.
7, 8 maybe.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest. I think that's what he's looking for is Leonard money without Leonard production yet. And so I'm frankly slightly concerned about it. I'm not a big proponent of paying linebackers tons of money, but if he becomes the player we think he could, what Jared is showing, like 5 years, 95, I don't think is out of the realm of possibility. Right. I think the Bears would like to get it closer to like 5 for 80.
Yeah.
It's just if he got a few more turnovers or sacks a year and he was that impactful, like it's a no-brainer. And
it's field general even too, Cars, like he just doesn't have that ability to hold other guys, I don't even know the word I'm looking for here. Like accountable really, just making sure everyone's sitting in those spots, making sure everyone's in the right spot all the time.
Trevathan, right?
That's just not who Roquan is. So
that was Danny Trevathan. Quit was even more of that guy to start with. And again, that's why they drafted a Brisker, is to kind of be that guy for the defensive backfield. And it wouldn't shock me if Morrow was the guy making the calls for the team. So I think, listen, he is talent is not the issue with him. It's where his head is at. He's been so focused on the money, which I don't fault him for because there's only so many. But God, him being his own agent is just not a good sign for what this is. What this looks like. And
Go ahead to the next one or whatever. Okay. Just keep going. I'm trying to set this up. Sorry, guys.
Other than Justin Fields, who do you expect to have the biggest jump this year? Outside of Justin,
Tevin Jenkins, I expect to make a really big leap for the offensive line at right tackle.
I was hoping you'd mention that part.
Yeah, I for sure think that, and I'm probably in the minority, but I do expect a fairly sizable jump this year for Cole Kmet. I think if you look at Mark Andrews, like numbers of like 65 catches, 800 yards, and a handful of touchdowns. Those I expect. And Khalil Herbert is the other one because if you look at what Green Bay has done with Dillon and Jones, I think we're going to see that where ideally Monty isn't getting 200-plus carries. And it's not because Monty isn't very good, but it's because we're going to rotate through these carries and kind of get each guy around 190-ish. So those are the three guys on offense. Defense, I got
mine right here.
Gibson, I think is a big piece. There are more questions on the defensive side to me than Thomas Graham would be the other one on defense that I would potentially expect a good leap from.
All right, Cherie. We have a guy in the green room. What was his?
Rob.
He's Rob G, but what was his screen name on here? I was giving him
smiling cashews,
sweaty cashews, whatever the fuck it was. Smiling cashews. So you're gonna have to guess. Do you think he's a manscaper or non-manscaper? You're gonna have to put the pressure on him, Cherie. Okay, I'm gonna bring him out here.
Oh yeah, Manscaped. Yeah,
100%. Cars didn't even blink.
100%. Yeah.
Is he on? Are you on mute, Rob?
Oh,
there you go.
You're good. You're good.
No, definitely not on mute. So what's up, man?
Hey,
I didn't. Everybody's got their monikers, and they're like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And I'm like, I have no fucking clue who you are.
No, it's
but
tough.
Yeah,
After tonight, it might be a little different with me being on here, but I'm a teacher, and the students are always in my business, so I gotta mix up the media handles.
You think there's any of your students watching?
Possibility.
I said, "Hey,
nice. Well,
great. Baby."
Well, as I believe LeBron James best put it, man, fuck them kids.
That's right.
Let's move on in.
Love it.
No, I teach 11th and 12th graders, and I talk about the Bears constantly. So
nice. You got any Bear fans in your class?
Yeah, I actually have a lot of students that knew nothing about football, especially on the girls' side of it, unfortunately, but they want to learn. So I have some time at the end of classes. I'll take 5-10 minutes and I'll go over some basic stuff. And by the end of the year, a lot of students into football.
You show them Tape Never Lies Network, right?
I have, yeah.
TapeNeverLies.com, Rob. Come on, man.
Awesome,
yeah,
man. That's cool. That's awesome. And clapping, I was clapping for your teacher, man. They don't get enough credit.
Yeah,
Happy National Teacher Day. What was that? Last week or the week before? Wasn't that?
Yeah, you know what's crazy is I talk to people about this all the time. There's like two things that drive me crazy. One is like
welcome to the family.
Welcome. Now you're official.
Right?
I love that.
That's your initiation. Everybody's initiation.
Right. Yep.
Is that all for me?
What were you saying, man?
It drives me crazy. Like I teach U.S. history, so people have a math question and I don't know the answer. They're like, "You're a fucking teacher."
Yeah. Gotta love kids. So
then
the other,
all these people are getting doctors and policemen. They should get paid a lot of money, but who taught them?
Exactly.
They're like, summers off. Yeah, but there's a reason why we get summers off. It's called stress.
It's called the parents, and it's one of those. Yeah, absolutely. I can understand.
The kids get the summers off. Where are you supposed to teach if they're not in school, right? I mean, my sister is a special education teacher at the school that my son attends. So she has a lot more patience than I do. I see what she deals with on a daily basis, and I mean, even unfortunately, her being in the special ed field, a lot of the parents need a lot more work than the children do. Unfortunately, they essentially look at school as daycare, and that's really it. But it is sad. Now we need good teachers like you, Rob, especially good teachers that are Bears fans. So you gotta get that out there. But give me your take on your biggest concern with the Bears and the thing you're looking most forward to.
Well, to be the offensive line, but since Poles came in and is doing everything he said to do, I'm not really that much concerned as I used to be.
Yeah.
I guess after that press conference yesterday with Jalen Johnson and hearing you guys talk about it and Hogan Johns, I mean, I take them with a grain of salt though, because they're kind of like
sellouts. I don't know.
They're not as handsome. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh
definitely
my God.
not as handsome.
Yeah.
They
don't have a Claudio like we do.
Yeah.
No.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. You're right.
They're unbiased opinion. They kind of have to play it down the middle. So I kind of feel like the secondary, like who's going to be starting? Is Jalen Johnson's play going to fall off now that, he feels challenged a little bit more? I'm not concerned with the running game, with the receivers, any of that, the play calling. I'm really actually looking forward to this. And I think a lot of people, like you guys talked about a lot, just not having Nagy there.
Yeah.
I'm
totally agree, man.
I'm ready to be a fan again. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
ready
it
to
is.
be hurt one more time.
Absolutely.
So how did you get turned on to TTNL? How did you discover this fucking freight train?
Oh, that leads me to the question I had. Actually.
Was it 1252? Did that open up the fucking door for you?
No, it's just
where's that fuck no button at right there? I know it's here.
I mean, I'll just go back to tell you, I became a Bears fan, and when I was in 5th grade, that'll tell you how old I am pretty much. But it was no football in my house, no sports in my house. My dad is not that kind of person, very serious guy. I happened to turn on the Super Bowl when the Bears were playing the Patriots, and I was like, whoa, what is this? Just fell in love with that team and the game. And
nice.
So that's how I started watching football. And then over the years, as a young kid, you're not devoted to breaking down film. You just want to watch the games on Sundays. So in my adult life, I became interested in that. But then, I've got a couple master's degrees, so I have no time to do anything else besides work and go to school. But now I'm at the point in my life where things have slowed down. I've done this for a long time, and I want to get into breaking down film and learning how to do those things. And that's how I discovered The Tape Never Lies. Is just looking for an outlet that does that for me. But my question, how did you guys get into breaking down film, and what sources do you use to do that? Because I'd like to even go beyond what you guys do just for my own hobby and learn how to do like what George does and what Phil does and his dad and all. I'm so interested in that.
I do whatever Sheree tells me to do. That's how I. Yeah.
Good life advice.
Actually, not true.
No, it all started. Cars and Phil and I obviously didn't know each other from anybody, and I believe Cars, what was it, like 1995, right around there. There was a Chicago Bears message board, and I remember logging on. I think Rashaan Salam was the picture up on like the first page, and we would always go in there, and it used to be. That was when like the Chicago Tribune online, that was must read every day because you wanted more info. There wasn't a whole lot of it out there, but we started to go on this message board, and it got to be like really a fraternity of just Chicago Bears fans. And Cars was there, Phil, myself, and just, I don't know, Cars, what was there? Probably 300 or 400 of us maybe at one point early on. There was a couple former Bears players that used to be James Parrish, I think. Wasn't that his name?
Urlacher's mom's boyfriend at the time was on. That was a funny one.
All these guys. So we used to just every day, it used to be a thing. We would do like mock drafts, like everybody would pick a team, and we started to get into it. And then that message board closed, and then we'd move to a different one. Cars, you ran the one for cbfans.net, I think it was called, right?
For about 3 years, yeah.
It was one of those things that was our Twitter.
That was there. It was like the only place that you could go to get these information. And so what started it for me was we just started to, Phil came on, and I'll be honest, I hated Phil at the start. Some say I still do, but that's another story. But you had a lot of people who had different viewpoints of the game. There were some guys that came in, I'm not going to name names, but who were really good at breaking down offensive line play. Yep. And they would talk about things. And so you'd get into these discussions, and you'd start to learn, like someone would point out a technique or a way a person did. And you're like, how did you see that? How did you get there? And it wasn't for me until like the all 22 started to become available more that really getting into the tape became simpler, because then you're trying to find, like, when we first started doing it, you're trying to find like bootleg VHS tapes and having people send you stuff from like the West Coast or the East Coast to look at. And this is very clearly a sickness, but you're trying to grab as much information. And so, like, through all of this, we just have all these conversations, and you keep talking and you keep talking. And Shayne and I ended up bonding too, because we had big Bulls love as well.
Yep.
And so it just kind of weirdly came together. And then when I got onto Twitter, Shayne was doing Twitter and Phil was doing Twitter, and they started doing things at the other networks. For me, that's how it really all exploded. And I was like, well, shit, my wife doesn't give two shits about me talking about the Bears, right? Like, she's like, that's great. Did you feed our daughters? I was like, well, hold on. I have 45 more minutes of diatribe here, and this gave me an outlet for that diatribe. So that,
Yeah, and that's, I mean, Cars put it great, and it was just, we never had access to the all 22, but we would be, like, I was the guy I have a digital library of every Bears game from 1994 on. I have a digital library of every game.
Now, is that just something that you recorded yourself, or did you buy it, or how did that?
Oh, no. I every single Bears game. I mean, I under no circumstance, if there was things in my family's life, I'd be like, yeah, all right. So from 1 to 4, I'm unavailable, or that just, it enveloped my entire life. But like, I have an entire digital library. Every game I would record back in the day, it would be originally VCR, and then it went to DVD copies. You'd burn it right on the DVD copy, and then you could do it digitally like you do nowadays. And you would find yourself there would be times where I'm not much of a sleeper. I think everybody probably on this panel, maybe not a lot of the listeners know, I don't sleep too much. And I would find myself getting up in the middle of the night. Now that my daughter's not, I didn't have her to wake me up back then, but I would always be going back, and I'd find myself watching a game 4, 5, 6, 7 times, even the losses. Then you'd find yourself, I'd get one of those yellow legal pads, and I would see something and I'd write it down and put a star next to it if I thought it was real important. Then I would bounce it off a guy like Phil, or you'd bring it to the message board, say, hey, did you guys see this play in the third quarter? Did you notice this? And then Cars would post like, holy shit, no, I didn't see that. And then there would be a thread that was 80 posts long where we would hammer down on some little minute detail, and then this whole thing exploded. Like the NFL draft, we'd always really get into that. And then, back in 1995, if you told me that we were going to have access to all 22, I would have been like, what's that? What is, okay, I'll watch the TV feed. Then you get access to it and you're like, oh my God, it's a whole, Cars can tell you, it's an entire different world. You don't see anything on TV. Like Rob, you were asking, like, what's one thing that you could, do you know who Pat Kerwin is? It's on Sirius XM NFL radio.
No.
He wrote a book. It's, I believe it's called How to Watch Football by Taking Your Eye Off the Ball. Get that book and read it. It's, okay. I'm serious, man. You will read that book and you will never view football the same, because 99% of people, when you're watching a football game, you're staring at the quarterback and waiting for the ball to be snapped. And with what Pat Kerwin is going to tell you, you're never looking at the quarterback, ever, when you're breaking down tape. Like Claudio can tell you, sitting down and watching a game with Phil, like Phil, maybe you don't even know this. I've never played one single snap of organized football in my life. I never played in high school. I went to a smaller school. Everything was basketball in my world, in my town where I grew up. It was basketball. I just fell in love with football myself. Like my family learned to love football later. Unfortunately, not the Bears, but that's just, one of those things. But I would say to you, get that book by Pat Kerwin, and it's really, that's what opened my eyes, along with meeting guys like Cars and Phil, because there's so much you're missing when you're just, everybody's like, oh, Justin Fields is out there. All right, great. The ball was snapped. Oh man, look at the quarter. He threw the ball. Where is it going? You're never watching that stuff anymore. If you listen to what like Kerwin is saying.
I think another guy that I always recommend is Bobby Peters. Is a guy who's a high school coach here in Illinois, but he actually writes books about schemes specifically for teams. And so he'll tell you about route combos. He'll break down, like he'll do an entire season where he breaks down the entire offense that New England, Green Bay, San Francisco run. And it's really a great view into things like schematically what they're trying to accomplish. And so when you piggyback that on top of Kerwin, like what to watch, and then schematically, like I'm going to be picking up Bobby Peters' book to look more at what he's done against Green Bay, because that's what we're going to be running. Now it's not just don't watch the quarterback. It's specifically in these concepts, the players that you watch to start to identify things like who the hot read is and where the block and where the ball is supposed to go. Because the biggest change for us in a timing offense right now is there are places the ball is supposed to go and it's not going to be as wide open. Those are really good methods too. I mean, it's as long as you enjoy it, it doesn't really matter. But yeah.
That's cool. Sounds like a couple of great resources. No,
Rob, do you subscribe to like NFL Game Pass? I mean, I know it's been horrible this past year, especially, but that is really, especially with Cars and myself and Phil, that's really our lifeblood. That's that you have access, or you're supposed to have access to the all 22 for every game. You can get the coach's angle and watch that, and it Cars. I mean, you can speak on it too. You'll see, like, I have season tickets to Syracuse football, which they're fucking horrible, but it's not even about that. When I bought my season tickets, I'm not sitting. I did not want seats on the sideline. I want more kind of like end zone seats. So you're getting that perspective of, you see the holes opening up, because I'm really using it as a teaching tool with my son, because you can explain things so much clearer to them when you're getting the perspective of what the players are seeing. You're looking over the hole over the left guard and watching things spring that way, that you'd never get that. I've always wondered why they didn't have, like, ESPN didn't just dedicate a second channel to the all 22, or have some robotic camera that you could just, if that's the angle that you wanted, you could watch it, because it's a whole different experience when you're watching it from behind the line of scrimmage. Chicago Bears have literally the worst all 22 camera angle in all of football. It's pathetic the way that they do theirs. Hopefully with the new stadium, it'll be different. They'll join everybody else, but look into NFL Game Pass and have they're supposedly revamping it, and it's supposed to be much better this year.
To get it next after hearing everything this year, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, that second angle though is so key, because when you circle back, and like when Matt Nagy would talk about missed plays, like, it's super hard to see it from the sideline view, but when you would see it from the end zone or behind the line, then you could see the moment the guys got open. Then you could see, kind of ideally where the ball was supposed to go. And so that's, that second view all of a sudden gives you that, okay. So for me, it was always like, someone would ask something about a specific play, and then 3 days later, I'd be like, okay, let's watch the other view from this. Okay, now I see where this was supposed to go.
The left guard stepped on the center's foot. That's why he got fucking bull rushed.
Yeah, exactly.
And we called him a fucking pussy on game day. It's because he, lost his balance. But it does. It opens up a whole different perspective for you.
Yeah, I didn't think I could love football anymore. And then I got on the Patreon and saw Phil and his dad breaking down the... My God, here we go. Here's I can't get enough already.
Yeah,
it's a sickness.
It is for sure. And it's my wife is like Cars, that she could give two shits. She giggles when she sees how upset I get, or she'll be like ready to go on Amazon and order another DirecTV remote that I just shattered against the wall, or whatever, because we go through a handful of those every year. But
yeah, my daughter watches games with me now, and I haven't missed a game probably in 20 years. I mean, road, or I'll find a bar, whatever I got to do to watch the game. But, my daughter, she walked in the first time and saw Phil doing a rant, and she sat down and was genuinely concerned he was going to have a heart attack. And I'm like, no, that's what he does.
No, that's also a legit concern. Let's be real.
He is getting older.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's older than all of us.
If you want to, if there's an end zone play, goal line play, and they don't give the ball to Montgomery this season, please someone get a bed warm in a hospital in Connecticut ahead of time. He may have a grabber this year.
Or if they get offered a decent draft pick for Robert Quinn, we'll try to go live immediately to catch.
God.
Catch that. Or bad. A defibrillator later ready.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Good.
Oh God.
Nice.
I think Rob just ruined his appearance with that killer. That's a Bratcher joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me ahead of time. So.
Oh, see, nice job, Bratcher.
Yeah.
By the way,
yes.
finding your gender.
What's that? Yeah, he did, Bratcher. Congrats.
I love how you whited out like the entire.
I didn't white out
thing,
anything.
like, my entire fucking spiel and just left that part. That's well done.
Yeah,
well done.
We're not going to bring
Right.
We're not going to bring up the. We're not getting into the spiel at all here.
We
but
don't need to get into that. No.
Yeah.
Fuck no.
But Rob, what do you think of your foray here on TTNL tonight? Have fun?
You know, everybody's nervous at first because their first time on here and, you know, people are watching, but 30 seconds in, I forgot all about it. It was just into what you guys were saying. So it's cool.
Yeah, it is. We run into that a lot. If you want to know who the haters are, just go to the YouTube comments tomorrow. Like I see people have been calling, they're like, why is Mike Glennon on my screen right now?
That was a pretty good joke on.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Funny.
But it's funny, like I forgot to check the YouTube comments there for a few days, and I went on yesterday and I looked at it and I'm like, the one guy, I think I sent you a screenshot of it. The guy's like, everybody on this show is just so unlikable. And I'm like, who is this dude? So I click on it and then he's got like the same exact comment from 5 months ago. And I'm like, oh, so you're watching all the shows. You're just, a jealous little bitch. So go over and sit in the corner and we'll give you a treat later. But
yeah, a teacher, you stand up in front of the most judgmental age group. All right. You get used to it.
Yeah. So what is your favorite drop on TTNL?
Oh my God. And you cut Cherie off with that guy that raps.
Oh, you like it?
That's so funny. I love
Cherie.
Funny.
I said, hey, oh, baby, oh, bring that fat ass over here. I want to get it in my mouth. I want to get it in my mouth. Oh, I want to suck on your fat ass.
There you go.
That was the history teacher requesting that, Cherie.
Your students are going to be shaking their heads.
If one of your students sings that song when you come in, that's going to be great.
Tenured?
How safe are you right now is what we're trying to figure out.
I'm safe. It's just a question of I don't really like them in my private lives. You know, it's like hard enough. Shayne, I'm from like around the area you're from, upstate New York.
Yep.
You know, I've been in California now for 10 years. But
yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I grew up there, born, raised, taught there, everything. Went to Syracuse for my bachelor's. And it's just like you can't go out to eat without somebody running into you. And then, I got to go grocery shopping late at night. And it's not because I want to avoid people. It's just because I want to get home.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with my social media. Like I used to just let it fly, keep things on private. And then I got a disturbing message one night from this male student. It just said, I found you. That'll learn you. And I was like,
oh boy.
How did you know me? I'm on private.
Yeah.
And so, I was worried about it all night because he's kind of a strange kid to begin with. And I went into school the next day and I asked him about it. And he just kind of blew me off. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to start trying to be a little bit more discreet here.
Was his name Angelo?
What?
He'll find you.
But yeah, I got a question.
Thanks. That he's got a cardboard cutout of me. Please don't say that again. Yeah. I'm still terrified.
You should see what that thing looks like now, Cars. I got an updated pic of it. Looks
like it's been
it's unrecognizable. It's unrecognizable.
Does it look like it's been whitewashed, so to speak?
Yeah.
How many holes are in it?
Yeah.
Not as many as in the
and where,
Where are the holes? Yeah. That's my biggest concern. Like if there's a nostril hole that's bored out, I am really concerned.
Do you guys have time for one more question?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I hear you talking about Roquan a lot and about how you're not convinced of his value if he signs a long contract, but give me some fucking names.
Well, I think I think
if they got rid of Roquan, right? Or not get rid of him, but if they didn't sign him to an extension because they didn't want to pay the money, whatever the reason, What linebacker in the NFL right now who's young, hungry, has already proven himself could slip in that spot, in your opinion?
Give me some fucking names. Give this kid 2 fucking games. I don't think that they would go the free agent route. I think that they would.
It'd be a draft pick.
100% it would be a draft pick.
But just for the sake of talking, like if they didn't, say they did go free agency.
Well, this is the thing that you fall into, especially with the, you see a team, and I know I bring up Philly quite a bit just because of the connection with my family, but they're a team that does not believe in drafting linebackers early unless it's in case of extreme value like what they did in the third round. They just don't believe it. There's teams out there that just would flat refuse to draft an off the ball linebacker in the top 10. The Bears, that's been their history, and it's such a different game now, and the Bears have always invested in that. I do see Cars' point. I mean, the point is you have to look at value with that. I didn't have access to his medicals and stuff. It's not a knock on Roquan. Do I feel comfortable giving Roquan $100 million as an off the ball backer?
No.
Nope. Sure don't. I don't
think it's a position that's
you know what I think a more interesting question is? How many games did the Bears win this year?
6.
This past year? 6?
How many would they have won if Roquan was on the team?
Yeah. How many, if Roquan was off the team, how many games do we win?
Yeah, that's a good point. I just you feel like linebackers kind of becoming like the same as like running backs in a sense, where you could just
easier. I have enough confidence in my scouting ability. I feel like I can get you a linebacker. And I think that's one of the benefits of the cover 2 defense. You look at the Indianapolis Colts. Did they draft their will linebacker in the top 10? Nope.
Fred Warner is not. Eric Kendricks is not. The thing is, it's you pay a guy at linebacker if it's tackles plus, right? If it's tackles plus sacks, if it's tackles plus turnovers, if it's one of those things. Roquan hasn't consistently shown it. Like there's been flashes, but you want to see more.
Yeah, you may see a total if they move him to the will position, which in the cover 2, you want to go right up. Essentially, you want to have your 3 technique that can destroy games. Just your Tommy Harris. That's the first pick of the Lovie Smith era. You heard Greg Gabriel talk about that. He was in there pounding the desk. You got to get me a 3-tech. You got to get me a 3-tech. What was the first signing for the Bears this year? It didn't work out. They went out and got Ogunjobi. It's literally the fucking engine that drives this defense. Is a 3-tech that can literally take the game over and ruin the interior of the offensive line and put pressure, because then your will linebacker, it lets him eat it. The defense is essentially set up to funnel everything to your will linebacker. That's why you see these guys thriving in the cover 2. The Bears just happen to have a freak in Brian Urlacher that he omitted the deep half of the field because of his coverage ability, because of his size, but
because he's that safety.
Yeah. And then you had Mike Brown on top of it.
But he was a safety in college, is what I'm saying, which is what makes Fred Warner so good. So I think that's the thing I look at. If you look at the guys who are many ways considered to be the best inside linebackers, you're talking about Fred Warner, not a first-round pick. You're talking about Eric Kendricks, not a first-round pick. Darius Leonard, not a first-round pick. Bobby Wagner was not a first-round pick. Levante David was not a first-round pick. He was third round, right? Like, you've got a lot of these guys. It's
if Nakobe Dean checks out medically, if he checks out medically, he's going to be a fucking rookie of the year candidate, all fucking defensive rookie of the year candidate all fucking day long. and they drafted him like 83rd overall. I think I see somebody in the chat asked, "Do you think it's coaching issue or talent?" It's Roquan's got the talent.
It's scheme and head.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's times if you go out and watch the All-22, I can show you where there's times where Roquan gets abso-fucking-lutely dominated in the fucking running game, where he's lost
because he's guessing.
And Cars, what fucking defensive scheme can you not guess on?
Yeah,
in this cover, it's all. If you go back and you watch Lance Briggs, and Brian Urlacher, and even back with Rosie Colvin and Warwick Holdman, Bratcher knows him very well. These guys, it was almost like fucking ballet. They moved in unison. It was 1, 2, 3. They all, and you hear Lovey, come on, big guy, got to stay in your gaps. You got to stay, because it's absolute. If you get out of your fucking gap, that's when you get gashed for fucking 60
Gotta
in the
stay
cover
sound.
2 defense.
And you've got to be, when you guess, you have to be right. And listen, like there was plays, but then it was like Urlacher shooting the gap because he sees something. Briggs, they communicated at such a level that he knew to kind of take over that spot. Lance is both one of the most overrated players in Bears history and one of the most underrated in many ways, because he knew what he could do. He knew how to do that job, and he never told himself to do any more than that. They let Brian kind of be like, dude, go do whatever. No one on the field can do what you do. Lance was so cerebral in his game that if Roquan picked that portion up, this would not even be a question right now that he's a $90 million+ a year guy. Wouldn't even be a question. He's not there yet. I think some of it is coaching. I think a lot of it is scheme, but I think this needs to be the year that he puts more pressure on himself to be that guy.
So that could be very well why they've not approached him. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the report out there saying that it's expected to get hot and heavy this summer. That's usually when those deals get done in the NFL, when there's a fucking deadline. And it is a legitimate concern with Roquan not having an agent. That usually doesn't work out so great for the players. It really doesn't. But
you got to be like, listen, I get it. You got to go make money, and you have a limited window. But there's a way to do it. The holdout never sat well with me to begin with. But this move, it does. There's always been some certain questions. Remember, like it was like his second year and he was doing boat trips during COVID with porn stars and all of these different things. Like there's been a lot of questions to where his focus is off the season. And listen, right, wrong, or indifferent, when you're in the public eye, like it was like with Jimmy G, right? He's like, I didn't realize I was a quarterback for the 49ers and everyone was going to be watching me coming out of restaurants with porn stars, right? Like you kind of make your own bed. And I don't think Roquan has been comfortable to point with the bed he's created.
Yeah. And DJ Profit said, who says he's going to make $100 million? The fucking league does. If you look around the league, that's
the market.
Yeah, the market is dictating where this is headed financially. And
so if you're him right now, are you praying that you play that weak side, or do you think he's better at the middle, thinking like maybe I could make like Darius Leonard money if I go to that weak side? What's he thinking? And where does he want to play?
Well,
he saw that Darius Leonard contract, and that's what 5 and 98.
In this defense, you want to be the fucking will linebacker, because like I told you, everything is funneled to that guy. That's why you see
the way I feel about it too.
The tackle numbers go way up, forced fumbles, and the part where it is coaching, Cars, to your point, is when Pagano was here. It's when they finally did deploy him and blitz him. Roquan always got there. They just never did it enough.
Yeah.
Because Pagano was so fucking stubborn with that.
They were so scared. They coached scared.
But this is the number. If you know any fucking fans of the Indianapolis Colts, or go on Colts Twitter or DM JJ Stankovitz about it. The number one thing complained about with Flus was him being stubborn, because it's all dictated on getting home with your front four. There's nothing extra.
We complained about that with Lovie
all the time. All the time.
Right.
And that's part of the cover too. It's going to be, why is Aaron Rodgers 12 of 13? It's because they want you to dink and dunk your way down the field, not give up the big play over the top, because
they want your guy to go get a turnover.
Right. We're betting on the fact that if you're dinking and dunking your entire way down the field, that you're not going to be able to go in and score that way. There, at some point, there's going to be a turnover. We're going to pick the ball. There's going to be a fumble. Or that's what the cover two.
They're waiting for that
defense
one mistake that they're going to make, and that's why guys like Tom Brady are so amazing, because they don't make those mistakes. That's why guys like Aaron Rodgers aren't that great. As much as we hate him, as much as I hate him, that's why he's that great.
Well, what's interesting is, I'll say early on it was great, but now he has pivoted so much to not taking those chances that I think that's part of why they don't win as much. What was it, like 3 years ago before the back-to-back? He led the league in throwaways because he was so cautious.
I mean, I think that Jacksonville, given them to Kirk, it didn't just mess with the wide receiver market; it messed with all positions. Now coaches are looking at things, and look what Poles just did with firing the scouts, and they're tightening their screws up and saying, "Hey, we're not going to be paying these contracts, these insane, $20 million a year contracts to these receivers, but we're also not going to pay $100 million to the linebackers. Start doing a better job scouting." And
what the Kirk deal did is what pushed all those wide receivers.
Yeah,
so
dictated
early.
The draft. Yeah.
That, because of this draft being really more of a second round draft after you get through the top 15, the reason these guys all went in a normal year, Burke isn't sniffing a first round, right? Like some of these guys, as much as Olave looked great in college, Olave should have been a second round guy. He shouldn't be someone that you trade up to go secure. But you have to thank the Christian Kirk deal for that, because that's an insane price tag to pay for someone who was the third option on his team. And I feel like you're absolutely right. Like it opened eyes everywhere. And you're seeing this year with the dead cap the Bears are paying, that New Orleans is paying, the way that Green Bay is setting themselves up in about 2 or 3 years to just be drowning in dead cap. The teams are starting to get to a point where they're, the more fiscally conservative teams are being like, listen, I can't be sitting here in a year where I've got $50 million tied into guys who aren't playing for us anymore. So you got to. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Good.
Hard knowing. But I was thinking, like, it's the same thing with, like, I don't really know how to phrase the question. I cut you off for fucking nothing.
It's okay.
Teacher of the year right there.
Well,
I don't know what the fuck to say, everybody.
We're good.
Yeah, I need a drop for that, right?
Yeah, right.
But yeah. So it's all fun. Like this year is going to be crazy. I think the rookie wide receivers, it's always a fun thing to watch, because as upset as I got, if you look back, right, these rookie kids, a great season for a rookie wideout is like 30 catches and 400 yards, especially somebody outside of the first round, and which is why all these teams took those various swings. But we tend to know how all those swings kind of pair out. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna be a stat nerd staring at Christian Kirk's every game in, game out to see what he does, because I think that deal is one of the worst deals in
I mean, Byron Pringle
Jacksonville being Jacksonville.
Yeah, Byron Pringle had a better season than he did last year.
Yeah, sadly
Let's
true.
be honest.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. God, I'm tripped over my words here. I must need to eat or something.
You need an edible.
Yeah,
that cures everything.
It'll make it pop right out, bud.
Cut that. We'll cut that clip. Make it pop right out.
Were you guys nervous as I was about the Packers taking Olave? And like, I was so relieved when they didn't take him, because I was like, you know, if he goes to Green Bay and ends up having a monster season, like, I mean, even close to what Chase had, I was like, how could we let that
He doesn't
happen?
really fit the profile of what they want at wide receiver. I was more concerned about him ending up, Jameson Williams ending up, that I did not want to see that dude.
Yeah, that was
with Aaron Rodgers. Olave doesn't really fit the profile of what the Packers are looking for in a wideout so much, but
because Green Bay, Aaron doesn't throw to rookies. Like their learning curves tend to be about 2 to 3 years before. If you read anything, like Aaron has a big thing with trust, and he just doesn't. It took him 3 years to really get comfortable with Valdez-Scantling before he really started to target him. So I wasn't so concerned about
the dude they traded to the Raiders. Same thing. Year 4. Yeah, Devontae Adams didn't break out until year 4.
Yeah,
Jameson, I was concerned, but
I thought about all those things too. But then I was like, you know, they're gonna take him just to mess with me. Like, I personalized it, you know.
Yeah. I did not want to see Jameson Williams. Just has that, when you're looking at wide receivers, he's just got that over the top speed. And I mean, you see how upset he was. I mean, you can't find a picture of him smiling even in the introductory presser in Detroit.
Hilarious.
He's pretty pissed off that he ended up there with Jared Goff, and really, I mean, nobody after that. But I was worried that he was going to end up in Green Bay, because I said, "Oh man, I can't imagine." To Carr's point, he doesn't love the rookie wideouts, but when you have that, it's not. I don't even want to. It's just special. His gear that he has, even, I mean, he's obviously a quick healer too, because what he's doing right now, not very far out from ACL surgery, is mind-boggling. But I don't know.
Where he's at in 2 years when he forces his trade away from the organization.
Yeah. We'll have a spot for him here in Chicago.
Absolutely.
So, Cherie, do I really chew gum like that?
Somebody made a comment that they're here for the chewing.
Oh,
there's a lot of thirsty bros in the chat, Cherie. And I'm going to say this as white as possible. So, but your milkshake.
Wait, you're white?
Better than anything else you
I thought Bratcher was the only white boy.
Your milkshake is bringing the boys to the yard right now. So,
every week.
Oh, man.
I got to eat, guys. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Right.
And,
Thanks for coming on.
Before you go, we gotta really put the pressure on you. Who is your favorite TTNL cast member?
Well,
Angelo, we know.
I mean, I have favorites for all different reasons. You know, it's like hard to say.
Don't teach her this answer. Do not teach her this answer.
No word salad shit here.
All right, I can relate the most to Shayne, because I'm from the area and I'm going through some of what he's been going through right now with my family. But
Bill Wagner says Mark Rebier. He's
for
your favorite.
For entertainment purposes, I got to go with Phil. I mean, his rants just.
You don't need to go on about him. He gets enough. Talk about me some more.
Mute him.
Where in New York are you? What?
He's not. He's in California
no, he's in
now.
Cali.
Oh, you said you're from.
He's from.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. I missed that. All right.
Yeah, I was from a small town that's like on the outskirts of Utica.
All right. So all right. Playing off of that, who's your least favorite TTNL cast member?
Me.
You're not a cast member.
Yeah. Alan. Alan is everyone.
Me.
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet
Say,
Alan.
yeah, default to Bratcher. He's the new guy.
It has to be me right away.
Because of your gender. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
Nope.
It has to be you because you're the newest one. So
yep.
So
The gender. Listen, the gender comment. You're officially a TTNL member.
He's trying to get us
hit him
canceled.
right. It's like hit him with that right away. So
that's
bravo.
the thing I needed. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, now that I've got the teaching thing down and I don't really have any work to do, hit me up if you guys ever need anything, research, anything like that. You know, I'm here for you guys.
Thanks,
That's
man.
awesome.
I appreciate it. You'll never hear from us again, but it sounds good on air. So we're gonna. I'm kidding, bro. I'm kidding.
Shayne's a man of the people.
It is. I love everybody.
No, it's a great show. I love what you guys do. Like, I mean, everybody brings something, you know, and then to see it all put together. I'm not the only one that goes back and rewatches episodes. I'm sure there's people,
I don't.
There's people that and especially the breaking down of the film.
Oh yeah. No,
that's amazing.
I get it, man. For
Yeah.
sure. What do you think of this? What do you think of this guy though, Rob?
Smoke weed every day.
Is he a keeper?
He's questionable.
Smoke weed every day.
Yeah, you're in Cali, right? I mean, you got to be smoking weed in Cali, right?
Yeah, well, I'm
only
T-shirt. Cardio Jesus.
I didn't say him. I said, you know, people out there smoking weed.
Good backtrack there, sir. Good backtrack.
Get him out of here before he loses his job.
Thank you very much for coming on, though.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, guys.
Later, Rob. Later, man.
You must have been at the top of your fucking class.
Claudio out here trying to get people fired.
Oh, please. It's legal over there. They can't smoke.
Certain jobs you still can't.
Really? That's fine.
Yes.
Agree.
That was. Did we have any more? A couple more questions, or did we funnel through?
Yeah.
Them all? Pretty good?
No, there's
had
more.
tons
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, we started more.
I mean, there's plenty of them.
I mean, you want to talk about Sam Musper putting on 20 pounds? Or,
No.
Yeah.
I don't. I know that. What's up with the national media getting on Ryan Poles in the draft?
It's because it's easy.
Because
Once
Yeah, it's like I said when I was on with Adam Rank. I think everybody, hey, when they drafted Kevin White, everybody just assumed that wide receiver 1 was fixed for the next 10 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's all about big names and who you take in the first round, and you could look back at this draft in 5 years, and people could very well be saying, how the fuck did Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker fall to the second round? I mean, maybe we'll look back on it and we'll say, how the fuck did they get drafted in the second round? Or that's why they fell, because they're not as good as we thought.
We talked about it on text, right? Like Minnesota got so many kudos for drafting Garrett Bradbury in the first round.
Oh my God.
And they were talking about how they were such winners of the draft to get that move. And that guy's not getting a contract extension, and he's done.
Right.
Like I love giving grades after the draft. It's so much fun, but it is the dumbest thing that we possibly can do, because
agree.
Grade me without taking a test. Fine. I haven't played a game. It doesn't mean anything. I haven't played a season. It's just weird. It's just really weird.
Here's one. I don't know if you guys, where did it go? I just saw it. Cherie, did you ever go on your date?
I don't know what date he's talking about.
The one with
come
him.
on. Yeah, Cherie.
The one with that guy from that thing.
You told me about the
This
date.
invention here is called the Cobb Quickie. Hands down.
All right, let's do 2 more from the comments, and then we'll.
Here. I don't want to do another Arlington Heights question. We have enough.
How about
of those.
this one? About the defense.
Yeah.
So last year the Bears defense was ranked 5th in the league. Do you think that they can be number 1 defense in the league? If so, is it really crazy to think the Bears will win 10 or 12 games?
Were they 5th? I thought they were like 13. Yeah.
Well,
no, it's no. There's they won't be number 1, and it doesn't really mean anything. But could they have a top 10 defense? Yeah, absolutely. And does that mean that they have a chance at 10 or 12 wins? I don't think it's what I love, what we all love about the NFL. That who was sitting down predicting that Cincinnati was going to go win the AFC North last year?
Cars, Homer.
That's right. I totally was. Who shat on them, right? And again, speaking of the draft, right? People shat on them for drafting Jamar Chase over Sewell, right? And so if the defense comes together, which is very similar to what happened with Cincinnati last year, that their defense played better, and by the way, their offense was explosive, absolutely. So it wouldn't shock me if they won 12. It wouldn't shock me if they lost 12. Like I don't think the defense necessarily matters in that as much. But top number one defense, no, I don't think there's any way.
No.
Breaking news. The Tape Never Lies Network. Breaking news.
So for those of you scoring at home, Cars has now said shat 5 times tonight.
I was thinking about that too. I'm like, why did you say shat every time?
The first one caught me off guard. And then we got to number 5. I'm like, that's got to be a breaking news drop.
That's what Lord Hans would say.
5 shots.
Instead of
5
shit.
shats.
I am so careful because if you say even my mom was over and she said, "Oh my God," and Maisie freaked out. She's like, "Grandma said a bad word." So I am so overly protective now that I completely forget. Except for F-bomb.
It was so funny when I hit the breaking news thing. I looked at everybody on the panel. Cherie's like, "Oh fuck."
Cherie was
Bratcher's like Bratcher's butthole's puckered up. He's like, "This motherfucker's gonna kill me."
Here we go again.
It's just awesome. Shayne misses nothing.
I love it, man.
That's right. All right, so we have one more.
Kefalo, no to Julio. There's no way his legs are held together by chicken wire.
So here's one that'll really make Phil super happy to hear. Shayne, what will it take for the Bears to not trade Robert Quinn at the deadline?
Well, it's all going to be. Listen. If the Bears get, if somebody
Von
comes
Miller
to the Bears and offers them a
second,
the
third,
Von Miller
like
deal,
Von Miller? Yeah.
If they offer him a 2, I think that he's in play. It's just.
Same age, more sacks.
I love Robert Quinn today. He turned what, 33 today, or was it 32?
I think it's 32 actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you guys tell it that's damn near 50.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But history shows his pattern has been to blow up and then go completely the opposite way the next year. And when I understand. People get so animated, and that even when I'm talking about, I'm never saying that Roquan is not a good player. He's a fantastic player. I just want to see more game-altering plays from him. It doesn't mean when I say that I don't expect the Bears to re-sign David Montgomery that I don't think he's a fantastic running back. It's
not today's the NFL is done.
Yeah, it's in today's NFL, and the same thing with Robert Quinn. When you're a team that's not vying for a Super Bowl, you're open for fucking business. If the Bears get into y'all been on all night and never, what was it?
Unless that dragon was fucking a goat or doing something, it's not going to impress you.
There.
That is a great drop.
You know, if you get to the end of September, October, I think the trade deadline is pushed back a little bit more. But if the Bears are hovering around 500, or even if they're a game or 2 over, and a team comes to you and says, "Hey, we feel like we're a pass rusher away," and they give you the Von Miller deal, Ryan Poles is 100%
crazy for not
gonna listen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that we're saying that he's a bad player. It's just business.
And to your point, Shayne, right? Like,
they fucking traded Khalil Mack. You're telling me they can't trade Robert Quinn? Of course they can.
Robert Quinn went after the 2014 season, did not have another 10-sack season until 2019, where he struggled with injuries. So this I was a little shocked they didn't move him during the draft, but as the season progresses, yeah, I think his contract isn't that bad at the back half. And yeah, when you saw those trade downs, Poles is going to build through the draft. He's going to replenish through the draft over and over and over again. And so that is going to be every move that he makes.
Yeah, he's been the most honest GM we've had in I don't know how long.
Forever.
Yeah.
Phil Emery was pretty honest. He was
horrible.
He just loved hearing himself talk.
Yeah.
I fell into that trap. I'm like, oh man, you were so used to Jerry Angelo talking for 15 minutes and never saying anything. Phil Emery talked and talked and talked for 90 minutes, and he would tell you everything, but we just didn't know that he was ultra paranoid behind closed doors. And remember the Jared Allen deal at the owners' meetings when he's pulling guys behind friggin' curtains, and it's crazy. Yeah. So that wraps that up then. Are we good with the comments in there? All right. So we're not gonna. I promised my people here we wouldn't go, but we're pushing 3 hours here. Even minus Phil, we're still pushing that. Which
it's because it's like, whoa, we get to talk. Let's just keep doing this and see what happens.
Absolutely. But I'm just looking right here. So let's do this the TTNL way.
Shout out Tape Never Lies. Shout out. I know you hear me, baby. Shout out. I know you see me, baby. Shout out. We gotta holler at you. Keep it 100 crew. Gotta show love too. Shout out. I know you hear me, baby. Shout out. I know you see me, baby. Shout out. We gotta holler at you. Keep it 100 crew. Gotta show love too. From the fans in the stands to the follows on the gram. Thanks for your support, showing love in the DM. We stay Spencer strong, fight together till the end. Now it's time to shout out worldwide friends and fam. Like
the network that keeps it real, 100 crew. So many in the world that I gotta show love to. For some this part signal show is at its end, but for me it's so important. Thank the charter members and the fans. Build the network, speak the truth through the tape. Never run around the truth. No narratives we create. Set them straight, no bubble screen on 4th and 8. Audio Shayne getting nervous cause keeping them up too late. That's it, no more to say they get the shot of vital. But hurry up cause the postman's getting homicidal. Shout out.
I know you hear me, baby. Shout out. I know you see me, baby. Shout out. We gotta holler at you. Keep it 100 crew. Gotta show love too. Shout out. I know you hear me, baby. Shout out. I know you see me, baby. Shout out. We gotta holler at you. Keep it 100 crew. Gotta show love too.
The network that keeps it real. Sense is strong.
Jackals or Claudio's favorite part there at the end, right, Claude?
Yeah, it's just the song is dope, but that ending just I don't know, doesn't fit for me. But they do great work, so I'm not gonna complain. I can't say shit.
No, you can. We'll encourage it.
No, but
yeah.
All right.
All right, Cars, we're gonna go around the horn here, and we're gonna start with you, sir. Any shout outs tonight?
I think, first we'll shout out Phil for everything that he's going through. I know it's a lot, and there's obviously been a lot going on with a lot of folks in the network these days, but he's always been a lot of the glue that brings these folks together. Please never let him see this, that I'm saying something nice about him, though. That is extremely important to me. But, Phil's a crazy, strong guy. He kind of puts up with more than I think most people ever recognize, and so our thoughts are with him. It's a tough time, and it's it's a lot to have to, you're in the process of moving and trying to get your life situated, and it all kind of gets uprooted here. So Phil will be my shout out. But again, everybody who's listening, you've never heard that.
Love it. Mr. Bratcher.
So I want to shout out Phil's daughters because I know what it's like losing a parent, and there's just a hole that never gets filled. So I have to say, shout out to them, everything that they're going through right now. We all feel for you here. Much love to you guys. And the fans here, my buddy Bullets, I got to shout out Bullets because if I shout out Bullets, I already jumped up Claudio one spot. So
it doesn't take a lot to be
trying to do something to jump.
I can't believe it.
He already done passed Jackal. Now he trying to take down Claudio. Don't come for me, Alan.
Never share it. No,
yeah, you don't ever step to Cherie because no, that is not happening. That is New will kick your butt at that point, and it will be game over.
Love it. But no, honestly, fans tonight were great in here. We had a ton of good ones in here. That's it for me. Short and sweet. Thank you guys.
Can only imagine the smells coming out of that thing, but
Out of what?
Cherie.
I mean, as always, I always have fun with you guys every Wednesday night. So love you guys. Thank you for giving me a break from craziness. But definitely want to shout out Phil, Bella, and Sunny. Love you guys, and just pray for your strength, and that it's a hard time, but you'll get through it. So, prayers to you. Love you, Phil. Love you, Sunny. Love you, Bella. So, that's my
stuff.
Well done.
Claudio, you've been
yeah,
around the man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah.
Hey, my
I'm
buddy.
gonna shout out Bullets because he probably doesn't care that you shout him out. So I'm gonna shout out Bullets because he wanted me to, and you're the man, Bullets. You're always in there. I gotta shout out my daughter Ava. She's gonna be 16 on Monday, so I'm gonna shout her out real quick.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then Jack.
I don't even have a smart ass video to put up.
No,
but
she's
like,
16.
Wow,
Bro.
your daughter's
She's
last
16.
birthday.
You better not play that video. She's 16.
Team Gemini.
So yeah, and then Jackal, hope you feel better. And then of course, my brother Phil, Sonny and Bella. Bella is literally the same age as my daughter Adriana. They were born literally a day apart. They are family, and it's just horrible. I can't wait to get over and see them and at least give them a hug. And, when everything, dies down or whatever, clears up. But yeah, so that's it. Shout out to them. I mean, there's really nothing else. Got to end with that.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah.
I in true Shayne fashion, I'm gonna keep mine short and sweet. I mean, it's really hard to go anywhere else. One person that I do want to shout out that hasn't been mentioned yet is Steph, because behind every man is a even stronger woman that is
in some instances taller woman.
Yeah, exactly. But that is really holding everything together, because I've talked to Phil a few times, not as much as we normally do, and the situation, it's a real tough one, because hey, you want nothing but for the best, or nothing but the best for your girls, and to see them dealing with something like this, it's heavy. And we all know Phil wears his heart on his sleeve, and at the end of the day, Phil is a strong human being, and I know that he can aggravate people, but he honestly is one of the smartest guys that I have ever met. And I mean, he's taught me, believe it or not, a lot of life lessons along the way, because he's seen a lot, he's been through a lot in his life. But he is extremely lucky to have Stephanie Atoshin in his life, because when all else fails, she's going to be the one that's there. And Claudio, I know you know Steph, and you and Steph are the same age, right? You guys graduated from high school together, correct?
Yeah.
She's the absolute rock. I've been checking in on Phil, and part of that, I just separately, I got a hold of Steph and I said, this isn't for Phil. I'm just asking how you are, because you can just imagine the logistics of, daughters that you helped raise lose their mother, and you're in that role yourself. It's a crazy situation. So it's a huge testament to Steph, who she is as a person, who she is as a mom, and just who she is as a partner to Phil as a wife. So I didn't want to end this show without shouting her out, because it's critical, man. Moms are a special breed, and if we're lucky enough to have them around, you heard Bratcher talk about it. If you don't have your mom here, you think about it 85 times a day. Yeah. And I'm lucky enough to still have my mom here, and going through everything that I've been going through with her, it puts shit in perspective. So Steph, thank you so much for taking care of our guy, taking care of Tate and Dev, taking care of Sonny and Bella, and really being a bedrock, not just for the Atoshan family, but really for this entire network. Because I'll tell you right now, if it wasn't for Steph, I'm not sure this TTNL network gets up off the ground, because she was a major part of Phil and I moving forward in this venture on our own. So shout out to you, Steph. Love you, Phil, Sonny, Bella. We're thinking about you. You guys always know that Uncle Shayne's always around no matter what. And like Jackal says, reach out, tell somebody you love them. Life changes in a blink. And we all experienced that along with our brother this week. So everybody in the chat that's still hanging around, we love you guys. We will be back breaking down Velus Jones if you're a TTNL patron this weekend. If you're not, get over to thetapeneverlies.com to sign up. But other than that, you guys all good to go as we wrap this up? Yeah. Got to shout out our boy Jackal. Hope you feel better.
Yeah, feel better, Jackal.
Yep, and we did prepare a little shout out to Jackal to end the show here.
Oh boy!
So remove the comments, and we will go out in true TTNL fashion to our boy Christopher Jackal. Here you go, sir.
I can only imagine the smells coming out of that thing, but only imagine the smells coming out of that thing, but
Jackal better do some shit. Jackal better do some shit. Jackal don't do shit. Jackal don't do shit now. Jackal don't do shit.